Chapter 50-70. I'm really not sick. Lin Kai explained to the System 978, but he found that 978 didn't believe him. So, in the following boring days in the mental hospital, he communicated with 978 every day and didn't get sick again. 978 finally believed that Lin Kai was not sick. Because he didn't get sick, Lin Kai tried to go out, but every time he was so emotional that he couldn't go out. Another reason was that someone instigated Lin Miao Miao, and Lin Miao Miao even planned to embezzle the family property. Since Lin Kai entered the mental hospital, she finally realized the happiness of her parents' only child. She didn't want Lin Kai to go back. She didn't know how comfortable she would be without Lin Kai. So she did something to make Lin Kai encounter some difficulties in leaving the hospital. As a result, Lin Kai couldn't leave the hospital for the rest of his life. Lin Miao Miao's parents believed that Lin Kai was sick. Later, when they got older, they simply handed this matter over to Lin Miao Miao, so he had no chance to leave the hospital. A long time later, the Lin group was handed over to Lin Miao Miao and gradually declined. Tang Guo married Yi Tang and lived a happy life. Even on the verge of death, she didn't intend to reveal anything to Lin Kai. She still regretted that Lin Kai still had 2 chances. If she couldn't foresee him in the next life, maybe he could really succeed. The system tried to catch 978, but 978 was a little different from the previous systems. It was very vigilant. As soon as the system revealed a little bit of its aura, 978 immediately retreated and never appeared again. In the later period, even Lin Kai thought that 978 thought he was a waste and abandoned him directly. It wasn't until his life came to an end that 978 appeared. Host, I will send you to the next world. You didn't leave. Host, are you kidding? How can I leave? I have to help you complete the task. Then why didn't you appear before? I thought you abandoned me. Lin Kai still hoped to continue to live with his memory, otherwise, he would have already cursed 978. He had lived such a miserable life that he almost became mentally ill. The people here were all abnormal, and he was so frustrated that he could die. At first, he was very ambitious. He wanted to make the Lin family feel guilty after he got out. Later, when Lin Miao Miao took over the Lin family and he heard that the Lin family had declined and went bankrupt, he gave up the idea. He also understood who didn't want him to go out. Wasn't it Lin Miao Miao's useless sister who wanted to be in charge of the company? How infuriating. Can we leave now? Yes, host. Wait a minute, where did you go? I kept calling you, but you didn't appear. Is it because you don't have enough energy? Hibernate. No, it's just that I suddenly felt a sense of danger and felt that it wasn't safe outside. 978 hurriedly explained, it's possible that an energy system that's more advanced than mine has appeared. I was afraid that the other party would do something to me, so I went into hibernation to hide so that the other party wouldn't find out. Just now, I tested it out. That danger is gone. Maybe the other party was just passing by. If the other party is still here, I plan to drag your soul to the next world. Although it's a little troublesome, it's much better than being caught by the other party. Why, it turns out that you systems don't belong to the same place. There are many different systems. This one is more complicated. When you complete a few more tasks, you can unlock more knowledge in this area. Apex. Chapter 50-71. After arriving in this new world, Lin Kai took a deep breath of the air here and felt refreshed. He didn't rush to look at the information. He wandered around the house a few times. After experiencing his freedom, he returned to the house. Host, have you moved enough? It's time to look at the information. Because you failed the mission in the previous world, the teleportation time in this world will be delayed. In other words, it won't be as timely. Something has already happened, and it can't be undone. Lin Kai felt a little bad. Send me the memory. Bad? How bad is it? Fuck, isn't this a trap? We're already enemies. How can I get her heart? After Lin Kai finished reading the plot, he felt bad. 978. I suspect that you're making things difficult for me. How can this kind of task be completed? In this world, his identity is relatively ordinary. He was originally an orphan who was adopted by Dr. Tang. Later, seeing that his aptitude was good, Dr. Tang decided to teach him medical skills. Dr. Tang has a daughter named Tanghua, who is his junior sister. They were childhood sweethearts. Dr. Tang, his master, once intended to betroth her to him. A few years ago, the two were engaged. In this world, he is not only a scum, but his character is also quite bad. He is particularly ambitious. He doesn't want to stay in this small town at all. He wants to go out and see a different world. Until one day, the princess of the dynasty passed by this town, and he had a chance. It's just that his identity is ordinary. How can he attract the attention of the princess? He can find out that the other party is a princess because he inadvertently eavesdropped. Moreover, he still has a marriage contract. Dr. Tang and Tanghua are his obstacles. If he wants to get close to the princess, these two obstacles must be removed. Inadvertently, he also learned that Dr. Tang has a very magical medical book in his hands. The medical book inside is very magical. This medical book is only passed down to the family. He can know this because he likes to eavesdrop. When Dr. Tang taught it to Tanghua, he inadvertently heard it. And some of the prescriptions in this medical book, such as removing scars, won't it make the princess treated differently? There was a scar on the princess's neck. Because of this, the collar of her clothes was very high. At first, Lin Kai planned to cheat the medical book from Tanghua. Later, he found that the medical book was not in the hands of Tanghua, but in the hands of Dr. Tang. So, he disguised himself and decided to steal from Dr. Tang's room. He took advantage of the time when Tanghua and her mother were visiting relatives. At that time, there were only him and Dr. Tang at home, so it was very easy to make a move. However, he didn't expect Dr. Tang to wake up. He was discovered and his mask was removed by the other party. He had no choice but to attack Dr. Tang and knock him out. But before he could do anything, Tanghua and her daughter came back and saw him committing a crime. Then, he went all out and knocked the two of them unconscious. If he stirred up trouble again, he would carry the three of them to the cliff and throw them down. Several days had passed since that day. According to the original plot, Tanghua did not die after falling off the cliff. She only lost her memory. After her injury was healed, she ran out again. She forgot what happened that night. She only remembered that there was a fiancé who was her childhood sweetheart. She followed her memory and came back. Only then did she know that he went to the capital. When she arrived in the capital, she found out that Lin Kai was already the emperor's son-in-law. Lin Kai was not happy at all when he found her arrival. Seeing that she didn't know what happened in the past, he was afraid that the other party would remember something. He was even more afraid that the wealth he worked so hard to get would be gone. So, he found a human trafficker and kidnapped Tanghua and sold her. He didn't know where she was sold to. The Summit. Chapter 5072. In other words, Tanghua shouldn't be dead. She's still alive, but she'll lose her memory. Lin Kai exhaled, things aren't that bad. As long as I can cover up this lie and prove that someone pretended to be me that day, even if she remembers something, she won't be afraid. Lin Kai, I plan to find someone first. My master and his wife should be dead. Let's find Tangua first. By the way, why is this woman also called Tangua? He didn't know, but it wasn't strange to have the same name. After all, Lin Kai was such a scumbag. Dr. Tang's family of 3 suddenly disappeared, but no one around them knew about it. People who knew them thought that Tangua and her mother went to visit relatives and didn't come back. They also thought that Dr. Tang went to treat a patient. Therefore, Lin Kai pretended that he didn't know anything. He waited at home and opened the shop as usual. He originally planned to find something wrong in a few days and then report it to the government. If he couldn't find the 3 people, he could sell the shop and go to the capital to find the whereabouts of the 3 people. The princess has been gone for a few days. He didn't dare to go with the princess because he was afraid that someone would suspect something. Now that Lin Kai was reborn, of course, he won't follow the previous path. Thinking of the things in the previous world, he hesitated. If I don't follow the previous path, will it be like the original world? Will Tangua see me differently? Or will she not be so tempted? Should I follow the original path and go to the capital to help the princess make toothpaste to get rid of scars? Will I not be the prince consort? Or, I'll go to the capital in a few days and pretend to look for someone. I'll say a few words to the neighbors and let them remember to tell them that I'm in the capital when they see my master's family. He naturally knew that Dr. Tang couldn't be alive. Only Tangua had the possibility of being alive. That's why he was so bold. In addition, I have to have some power to arrange things. Otherwise, when Tangua remembers what happened before, she and I will be completely finished. After making up his mind, Lin Kai no longer felt conflicted. He already began to plan what to do. What he didn't know was that under the cliff, the person he was talking about was treating Dr. Tang and his wife. The 2 people were older and fell from the cliff. Without the halo to protect them, they should have died on the spot. However, Tangua woke up in midair. In this emergency situation, she had no choice but to use her soul force. The silk cloth wrapped around the 2 of them, and the 3 of them slowly fell down. Even she was injured. Fortunately, there were branches below to cushion the fall. Even so, one of her arms was fractured, and one of her legs was broken. She only had time to check on Father Tang and Mother Tang after a simple phone call. Their lives were not in danger, and they had both woken up after being unconscious for 3 days, that beast. Lin Kai. Father Tang still couldn't figure out that the child he picked up with his own hands was actually an ungrateful wretch who actually wanted to steal his Tang family's heirloom. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have picked up Lin Kai. Don't be angry. Fortunately, our family is still alive. It won't be too late to deal with him after he recovers. Mother Tang comforted. Chapter 50-73. Father Tang exhaled heavily, his heart aching at the thought of the stolen heirloom. It's a pity that he took it away. That's our family's treasure. You almost lost your life and you still care about the treasure. You should be glad that we're lucky that we didn't lose our lives. Mother Tang snapped. Old man, that's enough. No matter what, recover first. When we get back, we'll sue him. Of course we'll sue him. We'll sue him for being heartless. He betrayed his master and even tried to silence us. Father Tang thumped his chest, clearly unable to let go of this matter. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been soft-hearted and picked up that ungrateful thing, you wouldn't have suffered so much. Thank goodness we're all alive. When we get back, I'll annul this marriage and send him to prison. Tangua, I'm just afraid that he won't admit it. He did it. Mother Tang, he dared to throw our family of 3 off a cliff. What do you think he won't do? No one else saw it at the time. If they went over and pointed it out, he probably wouldn't admit it. Furthermore, Who would believe that someone who fell off this cliff would be able to return in one piece? Father Tang was immediately silenced. That's right, there was no way he could explain himself. His originally aggressive demeanor immediately withered. His eyes turned red and he actually cried. Mother Tang saw this and her heart ached. She quickly patted Father Tang's back to comfort him. Old man, let's recover first. We can talk about other things later. There's no use thinking about it now. When Guo Er's body is better, we'll find a way out. They didn't act rashly because Tang Guo's hand and leg bones hadn't recovered yet. They were in the wilderness. If they met any wild beasts, they wouldn't know what to do. Even if they recovered, they still had to find a way out, find some tools, and find a direction to go. They didn't have anything on them. Father Tang planned to pick some herbs. When they got out, they could exchange them for some money for travel expenses. Tang Guo had seen the original plot of this world. When she found out that the scumbag was called Lenikai, she was happy. She suspected that God was doing this on purpose, letting her meet Lenikai by chance so that this scumbag wouldn't be able to achieve his goal. Even if she could prevent a tragedy, she could also teach Lenikai a lesson. Thinking about it made her feel pretty good. She was not in a hurry to go back. Just as she said before, even if they went back now, who would believe that they could still be alive after being thrown off the cliff by Lenikai? This was simply a fantasy story. Based on their one-sided statements, no one else would believe them. That Lenikai was very cunning. Perhaps he had already thought of a countermeasure. When the time came, he would turn the tables on them. Therefore, she wasn't in a hurry to return. She just didn't know what choice Lenikai would make. Would he stay in the town and wait for her to return, or would he go to the capital according to the original plot? After knowing what the other party would choose, she could think of a way to make the other party suffer. Besides, Lenikai's goal was to win her heart. She guessed that the other party would definitely quibble that she didn't do it. In that case, he would definitely find a scapegoat. Right now, Lenikai didn't have anything. He didn't have the qualifications to do that. If he believed that she was the only survivor and had lost her memories, then he would go to the capital. He could use the family Tang's treasure to win the princess's favor and use it to develop his own strength. According to her memories, the princess was a proud person. If Lenikai didn't have the intention to hook up with her, she wouldn't have considered Lenikai. It was also because of Lenikai's hard work in the plot. He used the family Tang's treasure to make many things that were beneficial to the emperor, that he won the princess's favor. Chapter 50-74. If Lenikai didn't please the princess and talked about his fiancée in the market, the arrogant and reserved princess would never be a bad person and break up others. On the contrary, Lenikai would use the princess to hook up with the emperor and become more and more powerful. A person like Lenikai would never miss this opportunity. He must think that the more powerful he was, the more he could cover up his previous mistakes. Regardless of whether she, the victim, would recover her memory, at least he would have a backup plan. If she guessed correctly, when she appeared in front of Lenikai, he would definitely show a loving look and treat her well. He couldn't wait to marry her immediately. Dad, actually, I've already memorized our family Tang's treasure. Just as Father Tang was sulking, Tang Guo suddenly said. Father Tang and Mother Tang looked at her in surprise and asked in unison, Really, Guo? Really, I've already memorized it. In a while, I'll carve it in the cave with a stone. Dad, you're familiar with it, so you can see if there are any mistakes. Father Tang couldn't care less at this moment and quickly nodded, Good, good, good. Dad's good Guo. Our family Tang's inheritance will fall on you. Dad, I have an idea. Lenikai is ruthless. If he really uses our family Tang's treasure to hook up with the rich and powerful, even if we go out, I'm afraid we won't be able to get away with it. We might even be killed by him again. The two's expressions changed. This wasn't impossible. Lin Kai was definitely capable of doing anything. They were just ordinary people with no power. Father Tang regretted it. He didn't care much about himself, but because he wasn't kind at all, he implicated his wife and daughter. He really shouldn't have. What do you think? Father Tang was still calm. Tang Gua said, Dad, when we find a way out, we won't go back to the original town for the time being. The two of you can go somewhere else to settle down. I'll go back alone to ask for information and see how the situation is first. No. Father Tang and Mother Tang quickly said. How could this be possible? Tang Gua continued, I'll pretend to have lost my memory. The two looked at each other. What did this mean? If I pretend to have lost my memory, even if I meet Lin Kai, he will let his guard down. When the time comes, I'll plot something else and find his mistakes. Father Tang and Mother Tang were very worried. Father Tang sighed and said, if it doesn't work, then forget it. We'll go somewhere else. If he really has connections with the rich and powerful, he is not someone ordinary people like us can afford to offend. Please don't show off. Since we're all still alive, and we haven't thrown away the heirloom, let's change to a new place and live in anonymity. There's no need to risk our lives. Your father is right, Mrs. Tang said. They were unwilling to accept this, but after experiencing this life and death calamity, what could be better than living? Of sts Tang's sts, it's. If the other party really became a big tree, then they would be ants. It would be better to stay away from it. Tang Guo found that these two people were very open-minded, very good-looking, and clear-headed. But on the surface, she still had to agree. Okay, Dad, Mom, I'll just go out and take a look. If I can't afford to offend him, I'll come back. Our family will stay away from him. Hearing Tang Guo say this, Father Tang and Mother Tang let out a sigh of relief. Over the next 10 days, the three of them recuperated. Lin Kai also closed his medicine shop and went on the road to find the three of them. In reality, he was going to the capital. Chapter 50-75. Tang Guo's injuries recovered relatively quickly. Even if she didn't do anything, with Father Tang's medical skills, she would be able to recover quickly. Guo Er's body is fine. She just has some superficial wounds left. Father Tang said, let's find some food and prepare to go out. The herbs we picked before are almost dried. When we get to the city, we can sell them to the pharmacies for money. Then I'll cook the remaining rabbit meat and pick some wild fruits. With these things, we can eat for a few days on the road. Mother Tang said. Father Tang wasn't a weak doctor who didn't have the strength to truss a chicken. In the family's medical skills, he passed down some martial arts. Martial arts experts definitely couldn't practice it, but it was no problem for them to strengthen their bodies. Just like hunting wild rabbits, it was okay to hunt some prey. The three of them spent 2 days preparing and set off at sunrise on the third day. They were carrying ropes made from weeds and bags made by Mrs. Tang. Food, wild fruits, and herbs were all packed inside. In the hands of the three of them, they each held a long stick with one end sharpened. Tang Guo picked this up in the mountains. After so many days, it was easy to sharpen 3 sticks. When she hunted, she used this kind of stick. As for skinning animals, she used the hairpin on her head. It was also because Lin Kai was a little flustered when he was doing things. He wanted to quickly throw them out and didn't have time to take these out. According to the original plot, the original owner would wake up at the bottom of the cliff and see her parents dead by her side. She would completely forget what had happened before and would have to bury Father Tang and Mother Tang. Then, it took another 2 months to walk from the cliff back to the town where she originally lived. She heard that Linikai had gone to find them. She, who had lost her memory, didn't think that Linikai was the culprit who caused the family Tang tragedy. Thus, she stepped on the road to find Linikai without hesitation. She had nothing on her and was only able to survive because of her medical skills. That was how she managed to survive. She went to many places but couldn't find Linikai's whereabouts. Later, when he heard that Linikai had gone to the capital, he hurriedly went to the capital to find him. After going through untold hardships to get to Beijing and meeting Linikai, he didn't expect to be betrayed by the other party in the blink of an eye. At that time, the original owner didn't know that the one who sold her was Linikai. She thought that she had met a human trafficker. She struggled with all her might, hoping that her fiancé would come and save her. She only knew medical skills and some basic martial arts. She was not a martial arts expert. How could she escape from those cruel human traffickers? Being beaten and scolded for running away was a daily occurrence. In the end, she was sold to a brothel because of her good looks. The brothel madam treated her like a money tree, but she only wanted to escape and refused to obey. No matter how many times she was beaten, scolded, and tortured, she refused to obey. There was even one time when she pretended to obey, but in fact, she turned her head and bit the customer. The old procuress of the brothel tortured her in every possible way, but she was still unable to tame her. In the end, she could only clench her teeth and give up. But she didn't want to let her off so easily, so she used a branding iron to burn a scar on her face. She felt that she had a sharp tongue, so she made her teeth look haggard and poisoned her into a mute. Afraid that she would run away and waste so much money, she had someone break one of her legs. She finally stopped causing trouble. She obediently stayed in the brothel and worked as a coolie for the girls. She treated those pitiful girls and adjusted their bodies. It wasn't that she didn't want to go out. It was just that her face was ruined and her teeth were broken. She couldn't speak and could no longer face the person she liked. Chapter 5076. In her opinion, this was probably fate playing tricks on them. There was no fate. Since Linikai had become the prince consort by accident, his future was bright. She didn't need to worry about anything. At this time, she still hadn't remembered her past. Perhaps those memories were too painful, so she subconsciously forgot them. However, what happened in the past had happened. When it was time to remember, she would remember. That night, a thief broke into the brothel. She happened to hear the commotion. When she came out to check, she was knocked unconscious by the thief with a stick. When she fainted, the lost memories came back like a tide. When she woke up, she beat her chest and stomped her feet in the room, wailing. At that time, the person she hated the most was herself. Because she didn't want to remember those memories, she subconsciously avoided them and couldn't remember them in time. The person she had always hoped for was the person who killed her parents. And she actually wanted to drag out an ignoble existence again. She didn't know if her parents in the netherworld would scold her day and night if they knew about this. Because of the good karma she had formed, the girls in the brothel treated her well. When they saw her crying miserably, they asked her what happened. She picked up a pen and wrote down the bloody incident. The group of girls scolded her and said that they would help her take revenge. These years, she had been paying attention to Linikai's situation. She knew that he was more and more valued by the emperor. These girls in the brothel had no power or influence. If they went against him, they would die. Their fates were not good to begin with, so how could she implicate innocent people? Thus, she rejected their good intentions. The girls also knew that they couldn't help, so they gathered money to buy her freedom. At least this way, she would be free and could do what she wanted to do. This time, she didn't refuse. After obtaining her freedom, she took the money the girls gave her and went on the road. It was a road of revenge with no chance of success. When she came to the capital, she tried to sneak into the princess' residence. After asking around, she found out that Princess Tai Yu liked delicious food. She remembered that Princess Tai Yu went to the small town she lived in many years ago. It was most likely for that one bite of food. Because of her ugly appearance, it was impossible for her to enter the princess' residence. Lin Kai had many bodyguards around him, so it was impossible to assassinate him. As for poisoning, Lin Kai obtained her family Tang's medical books. His medical skills were probably much better than hers. It would be very difficult to succeed. Poisoning was almost impossible. After learning about Princess Taiyua's preferences, she spent 10 years traveling all over the country to learn about the local cuisines before returning to the capital. This time, with her culinary skills, she finally obtained the qualifications to enter the princess residence. In the princess residence, she saw Lin Kai. Because of his high position and power, his aura was completely different from before. When Lin Kai saw her, he didn't even look at her. In his eyes, she was just a servant who cooked. He heard that she was ugly and had a head full of white frost, so he was even less interested. The impression she left on Lin Kai was that she was an ugly cook who could cook good food. She practiced every day on how to deal a fatal blow to Lin Kai. She didn't know if Lin Kai was afraid of death, but no matter when, there was always a bodyguard beside him. With her skills, she couldn't get close to him at all. She might be killed by the bodyguard before she could get close. She could only continue to hide. After many years, she still found an opportunity. Maybe it was because the food she cooked was too delicious and there were no accidents in the past few years. Lin Kai had already regarded her as a trustworthy cook in the residence. She never thought of poisoning, so naturally, she didn't arouse any suspicion. She also never showed her medical skills. Chapter 5077. Ever since Lin Kai took the initiative to ask her to make some delicious food, she began to simulate how to kill him. She always kept a dagger in her sleeve, even when she was sleeping. She didn't act from the beginning, but repeated the same scene countless times. Finally, she made her move when Lin Kai was about to eat tea. She placed the tea beside Lin Kai. Seeing him holding his chin and thinking on the stone table, looking a little drowsy, she took out the dagger and slit his neck. But at that moment, Lin Kai's child appeared and called out, "Daddy," causing her years of preparation to go up in smoke. Lin Kai, who had already woken up, casually beat her until she couldn't fight back. He even broke her hand. She was locked up. Lin Kai later found out about her identity, so he naturally chose to kill her. He even whispered to her, "Junior sister, since you're still alive, you shouldn't come back." She shed tears, feeling the life that was disappearing. She wouldn't come back. As long as she was alive, she would take revenge. Even if she was a moth flying into a flame, she wouldn't hesitate. Wait a moment. Father Tang's voice pulled Tangua back from her thoughts. Only then did she realize that she was a little far from the two of them. She stopped and walked back. "Father, what's wrong?" "I smell blood." "Judging from the smell, it's human blood. I don't know if there are fierce beasts nearby. Let's be careful." Father Tang had already taken out a sharp stick and looked around warily, also, see if the person who suffered is still alive. Mother Tang saw Father Tang's worried expression and said unhappily, "You just said that you won't be a good person anymore. You can't hold it in anymore." "Madam, no matter what, I'm still a doctor. I can't just leave someone to die, right? A doctor's job is to save the dying and heal the injured. I'm not bringing him home. If he's still breathing, I'll bandage him up and move him to a safe place. I won't even leave a name. How about it?" "All right, do you think I don't know you after all these years? Let's save them. They're all in trouble. If we don't save them, I won't be able to rest easy, Mrs. Tang said. She was also on guard, her eyes searching the area. Tongzi, have you found him? Dear host, I found it. Walk 50 steps to the right and you'll see it. It's still breathing. Tang Guo realized that her father was also walking in that direction, and his pace was getting faster and faster. It was obvious that he had sensed something in that direction. She complained to the system, my father's nose is very sharp. He can even smell it. There aren't many people like the host's father. Many people don't want to meddle in other people's business. They're all afraid of getting into trouble. He's a doctor. This is an occupational disease. He can't just leave him to die. Here it is. Father Tang raised his voice and quickened his steps. Soon, they arrived at the destination indicated by the system. Tang Guo wasn't in a hurry. Instead, she supported Mother Tang and followed behind. When the two of them arrived, Father Tang was already checking the injuries of the people in the bushes. Old man, are you still alive? Mother Tang asked with concern. She knelt down beside Father Tang and habitually opened the bag on her body. What medicine do you need? Seeing this, Tang Guo shook her head speechlessly. Her mother was talking about her father. Wasn't it the same? Both of them had occupational diseases. Get me something to stop the bleeding. This guy has a very deep knife wound on his back. It'll be gone if we wait any longer. Chapter 5078. Tang Guo watched from the side as her parents worked together to treat the patient. She didn't want to disturb them. With their temperament, if they met a bad person, she really didn't know what to do. Now that she was here, it was fine for them to do something they liked. The biggest regret of the original owner was that she couldn't take revenge. Now that her parents were living well, she would take care of them. She would let them live happily for the rest of their lives and do what they liked. She would take care of the safety issues. It's a young man. After bandaging the patient, Father Tang looked at the young man lying on the ground. Madam, can we leave him here? There's no village in front, no shops behind, and it's in the wilderness. If he doesn't wake up at night, will he be eaten by wild beasts? Then wouldn't all my effort and herbs be wasted? Mother Tang said, yes, it's too dangerous to leave him here. The two thought of something and looked at Tang Guo with innocent eyes. Tang Guo expressed that she was innocent. She walked over and squatted down to look at the young man lying in the grass. Why don't we bring him along? I don't think this person looks like a bad person. She reached out to touch the jade pendant on the man's waist. He looks quite rich. Maybe he can give us a lot of money for revenge. Saving the dying and healing the injured is basic. We don't practice medicine for money. This is the teachings of our family Tang ancestors. Father Tang said sincerely. He was afraid that his daughter would become greedy for money. A doctor who was greedy for money would easily do things that went against their ancestors' teachings and went against their conscience. He had to correct them in time. Father, it's fine to charge more when treating the rich. We also need to pay for treatment. Think about it, if you treat the poor, you might not take a single cent. Then in the long run, can you continue to save people? If you have money, you can charge more. If you treat them, they won't be stingy. If they give you money, you can take it. If they don't have money, you can charge less. Father Tang heard this and felt that it made sense. Guo also agrees not to put this place here. Father Tang changed the topic. Tang Guo nodded. This is the wilderness. If there really are wild beasts, I'm afraid this person won't be able to survive. It's better to take him with us. But how are we going to take him away? Mrs. Tang asked a crucial question. This person isn't light. I'm afraid the three of us together won't be able to carry him far. Father Tang was silent. Why don't we stay here and wait for him to wake up? His injuries were not serious. He had fainted due to exhaustion and excessive blood loss. Now that the bleeding had stopped, he would wake up in at most a day. When he wakes up, we'll feed him some food. He should be able to walk on his own. This was the best solution for the three of them, and it was approved by Tanggua and her mother. Tanggua found a place near the cliff. It just so happened that there were some caves. She moved the man over. They also planned to spend the night here and wait for the man to wake up. You know. The system said faintly. Chapter 5079. It's him. Tanggua admitted, I just don't know who he is this time. Who cares about his identity? Now that you've met him, he's yours. The next morning, Tanggua woke up and found something strange. She quickly opened her eyes and met a pair of probing eyes. That person had woken up. You're awake? Tanggua asked. Yi Tang looked away and nodded gently. He looked around the cave and asked, Did you save me? My parents saved you. Tanggua saw that there was no one in the cave and guessed that they had gone out to get food. They might have gone out to get food. I'll go out and take a look. Are your injuries okay? Yi Tang said, I'm fine. He looked at Tanggua's back and followed her out. He kept looking at her with hesitation and uncertainty in his eyes. This person's actions and mannerisms overlapped with the person in his memory. How could it be? He was the only one who retained his memory in his next life. It was impossible that she was the same as him. There shouldn't be so many miracles in the world, right? Tanggua noticed Yi Tang's expression. She suddenly turned around and walked up to Yi Tang. Why are you looking at me? Are you afraid that I'm a bad person and will drag you out and sell you? No, no. Yi Tang heard her tone and became more and more suspicious, but he couldn't be sure. My name is Yi Tang. He decided to test her. I still don't know the name of my benefactor. He had been in this world for a long time. He felt that he should have awakened the memories of his previous life and not reincarnated in someone else's body. When he awakened the memories of his previous life, he was 13 or 14 years old. Because it was the awakening of the memories of his previous life, it didn't change anything in his life. He didn't even want to change it. In this world, there was no one he cared about, and he didn't have any relatives, so it didn't matter whether he changed it or not. He was just like before, living like a machine. He just didn't expect to meet someone who acted like his sweetheart. His eyes lit up. Tanggua was stunned when she heard the name. Yi Tang. What a familiar name. Yi Tang was observing Tanggua's behavior. Seeing that she didn't hide her surprise, he was a little excited and couldn't help but clench his fists. Could it be that he wasn't mistaken and that this person was her? My surname is Tanggua. Tanggua could feel Yi Tang's nervousness. When she saw the excitement in his eyes, she could even hear his heartbeat. She met his gaze and introduced herself with a smile. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, the corners of Yi Tang's lips unknowingly revealed a slight smile. Tanggua. This name was like a ray of hope that landed in his heart. It made him, who had originally planned to be a living dead, come back to life. Do you like haunted houses or roller coasters? Yi Tang asked again. Tanggua smiled. I like all of them. Yi Tang was so excited that he didn't know what to say. If he hadn't heard the footsteps in the distance, he might have rushed over and hugged Tanggua. His eyes seemed to be glued to Tanggua's body. He couldn't see the two people walking over at all. He restrained his impulse and didn't go over to hug her. He used to hate miracles, but now he liked them very much. He didn't expect that God would let them reunite like this. The gift here was a surprise. Father and Mother Tang rushed over. When they saw Yi Tang standing far away and being very polite to Tang Gua, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. The two of them walked to Tang Gua's side and looked Yi Tang up and down. Father Tang said, "Young man, how are you feeling?" Yi Tang said, "Very good. Thank you." "That's good. Let's eat first. After eating, we'll continue on our way." Mother Tang said, "It's good that you've recovered. Yesterday, you were lying there on the verge of death. We were so worried. Yi Tang, you didn't lose your memory and your injuries aren't serious. When we're outside, you can find your way home yourself." Father Tang said to Yi Tang while eating. "We have our own things to do. You don't have to come with us." This young man's eyes were dishonest. He kept staring at his daughter. This was what Father Tang thought. Yi Tang said, "You saved my life. I haven't repaid you yet." Peak. Chapter 50-80. Saving the dying and healing the injured is the basic duty of a doctor. "I don't need you to repay me," Father Tang said. Yi Tang was very persistent. At this time, how could he be separated from Tang Gua after going out? This was fate that brought them together again, so he had to hold on to it firmly. "If I don't repay you, I will feel uneasy. How about I stay to protect you? I'm quite skilled and can be your guard." "Father Tang, then you might as well give me some money." Yi Tang hurriedly took out the money and the jade pendant on his waist and handed it to Father Tang. "Dr. Tang, here. I've given you money, but I still feel uneasy. I've decided to stay and protect you." Yi Tang could see from the sorry state of the three people that they definitely didn't appear in the wilderness rashly. Even the bundles were made of twine made of grass and then woven together. Although the injuries on the three people's bodies were almost healed, there were still some scratches on their faces and hands. Some traces could still be seen. It was impossible for them to disappear completely in such a short period of time. Yi Tang guessed that the three of them must have experienced something to be so determined to stay and protect them. Father Tang frowned. This kid had clearly been staring at his daughter and even said that he would stay and protect them. Why did he feel that the ulterior motive wasn't the wine, but his daughter? But with his family's current situation, he didn't know when they would be able to leave. Their family only knew a little bit of martial arts. If they really encountered something, they might not be able to deal with it. This kid had a strong body. He was still alive and kicking after being stabbed like that. It could be seen that his physical fitness was really good. His martial arts shouldn't be low. He also had good strength. Even if he didn't use it as a guard, he could carry some heavy things and intimidate some restless people on the road. His daughter was beautiful. If she really met someone with evil intentions, he really didn't know what to do. Using this kid to deceive people was fine. But wouldn't it lead a wolf into the house? Just like that Linikai. Father Tang carefully looked at Yi Tang. Seeing his bright eyes, clear eyes, and silk clothes, it was obvious that he wasn't an ordinary person. In this way, this person most likely wasn't a greedy person. With the other party's strength, if he had any evil intentions, it wouldn't be a problem for the three of them. The three of them had nothing valuable on them, so there was no need for him to compromise and scheme. "Father, why don't we keep him? At least we can have someone to help carry the bags." Tang Gua saw that Father Tang didn't answer for a long time. She knew that he was still afraid after being bitten by Linikai. Father Tang had already planned to agree, but seeing that Tang Gua had actually taken the initiative to ask him to keep this kid, he pondered for a moment in his heart and became a little clearer. When he saw Mrs. Tang looking at Yi Tang with a smile and sizing him up, he couldn't help but gasp and smack his head. Look at how silly he was. Since you're so sincere, then let's travel together, Father Tang said with a straight face. But, let's make things clear first. We're in a bit of trouble. If you follow us, I'm afraid you'll be in danger. Father Tang agreed and remembered Tanggua's plan. Tanggua had said that she would pretend to have partial amnesia and go back to find out more information. At first, he was still worried. He wanted to take a look at this kid in front of him. If he was a good person, he would be more at ease if he went with Tanggua. This person's appearance was extraordinary. His eyes were clear and he didn't lack money. At the very least, he wouldn't do something like selling his daughter. Of course, he planned to observe more on the way. Chapter 5081. Where is young Master Yi from? While the four of them were on their way, Father Tang took the opportunity to chat with Yi Tang. They talked about a wide range of topics and Yi Tang was able to tell him a thing or two. Father Tang saw that Yi Tang's speech was not ordinary and his actions were not bad. His heart felt a bit better and he began to ask about his hometown. I'm from Lu Province. Yi Tang politely replied. Needless to say, this Dr. Tang in front of him would soon become his father-in-law. Since his father-in-law was investigating him, he naturally had to tell him the truth and satisfy his father-in-law. Father Tang remembered Lu Province. Lu Province was a rather famous place and it was very prosperous. He quickly searched his mind for a family with the surname Yi in Lu Province. After searching, he found that the surname Yi was a large family in Lu Province. For a moment, he was unable to determine which Yi family's young master Yi Tang was from. What does your family do? How did you get injured and end up in this place? If you didn't meet this old man, even if you didn't get eaten by a wild beast, you would have died from blood loss. Yi Tang smiled and replied, My family does business. The injury was an accident. When I was transporting goods, I met bandits. Yi Tang did not say the details. It was a coincidence that he met the bandits. His martial arts were not ordinary and even if he met an expert, he would not be in such a sorry state. It was only because he was first drugged and then attacked by the bandits that he was accidentally cut. While he was still conscious, he chose to run for his life. He did not know why at the time, but his desire to live was very low. Ever since he awakened the memories of his previous life, he felt like he was a tool. It was as if his soul had been taken away. So unknowingly, he escaped to this desolate mountain range. He even thought that his life would end like this. Without these memories, he would not be so lost. He didn't expect that things would take a turn for the better and he would meet the person he loved the most. What kind of people are in your family? After you leave, you should first tell them that you are safe. After being in an accident for so long, they should be very worried. Father Tang said. Yi Tang replied, When I was 13, my grandmother and my parents left one after the other. I did not have any siblings. There were only a few relatives who were not close and could not be considered family. They would not worry about my safety and would only wish for me to die outside so that they could inherit my parents' wealth. It was possible to gain his father-in-law's sympathy. He was someone who had lived 2 lifetimes. How could he not see that Father Tang was a very warm-hearted person? Don't be fooled by his stern expression. When Father Tang heard this, he felt some sympathy. He could not help but think of the ingrate he picked up inside. He's also a pitiful person. Tanggua pursed her lips and smiled. This guy really knew how to trick people. He knew that her father was soft-hearted. If that's the case, you should inform your family as soon as possible. Otherwise, they might think you're dead. They might even be discussing how to split up your family business right now. Mrs. Tang was a little anxious. She was completely on Yi Tang's side to say, too. Chapter 5082. After being betrayed by Lin Kai, he deeply understood that feeling, so he automatically brought Yi Tang into the picture. A 13 or 14-year-old youth who had lost his family had to silently support such a large family business and also face those vicious relatives. Difficult, difficult, difficult. Because Yi Tang vaguely remembered the way they ran in, it only took them 2 days to reach the main road. Dr. Tang, where should we go now? When they reached the main road, Yi Tang asked Tang Guo's family for their opinion. He pointed to the 2 sides of the road. This is towards Liuzhou, which is also the direction of my home. And this is towards Qingzhou. Father Tang looked towards Liuzhou and thought of Lin Kai. His eyes revealed a bit of pain as he sighed. Our family originally lived in a small town in Qingzhou, which is Anji town. It shouldn't be too far from here. But there are some reasons why we can't go back. We want to find a place further away to settle down first. Then, let's go towards Liuzhou. We'll find a place to settle down first, then we'll think of a long-term plan. Yi Tang was a bit excited. Liuzhou was a good direction. The closer they were to Liuzhou, the more people he could use. It would be easier to find a place to settle down. Father Tang didn't say anything, so he couldn't secretly ask Tang Guo. Didn't he see how vigilant his future father-in-law was? This was ancient society, not as open as modern society. He didn't want to leave a bad impression, so he could only endure for now and show off in front of his father-in-law. Although this road was a main road, there weren't many people coming and going. After rushing for half a day, they only met a few people. On the way, they bought an ox cart. Tang Guo's family sat on the ox cart, and Yi Tang was the driver. Tang Guo didn't think much of it, but she could clearly feel that Father Tang and Mother Tang's faces were a lot worse. They were tired from the journey, plus they didn't eat well and didn't rest well. Now that they had the ox cart and the food they exchanged on the road, the 2 sighed in relief. Yi Tang slowly drove the ox cart. He knew that Tang Guo was sitting behind him. Even if she didn't say anything, he felt that this was the most fortunate moment. He didn't look back, but he knew that she was looking at him. She might even be smiling. Thinking of this, he could not help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Tang Guo's voice came from behind his ear, and Yi Tang stopped laughing. He replied, I thought of something good. You're a strange person. If other people had the same experience as you, they might say how unlucky they are in their hearts, but you can still laugh. What good thing did you think of? That's a secret. Yi Tang didn't dare to say it directly. He didn't need to turn around to know that Father Tang and Mother Tang were secretly listening. If he said that he met the person he missed because of a disaster, that would be a good thing. Wouldn't Father Tang and Mother Tang treat him as a lecher, scold him for being shameless and chase him away? He didn't want to do something so strenuous. It wasn't worth it. He wouldn't fall for it. This kind of good thing should be enjoyed in secret. He knew that she was bored and wanted to tease him again. After finding a place to settle down, what do you plan to do next, Miss Tang? No matter what, Yi Tang planned to follow Tang Guo. This was a gift from the heavens. He couldn't wait to stick by her side day and night, afraid that he would accidentally lose her. I plan to go back to Anji town to check on the situation. Yi Tang still didn't know what happened to the family of 3. He guessed that Father Tang trusted him, so he should be able to ask now. May I ask what happened to your family? Chapter 5083. So that's how it is. After listening to what happened to Tang Guo's family, Yi Tang exclaimed that it was a close call. This family was really lucky. They were still lucky even after being thrown off a cliff. If something happened to them, then wouldn't he never be able to see his wife again in this lifetime? No, if he didn't meet them, he might be dead. Then what do you plan to do? Yi Tang asked this because he wanted to reveal to Tang Guo that he would accompany her when the time came. Tang Guo understood the meaning. Of course, she wouldn't refuse someone to accompany her. No one saw Lin Yikai throw our family off the cliff. If we were lucky enough to survive and go back to sue him, I don't think anyone will believe that someone can survive after falling from such a high cliff. Maybe Lin Yikai is prepared over there. If we fail to sue him, we will be blamed. Yi Tang knew that this was the case in the ancient world. Moreover, it had been a long time since the incident happened. The other party had cleaned up the scene, unlike modern times where there were cameras everywhere. Let's go back to Anji town and see the situation first. If Lin Yikai is still there, we will think of another way. He stole our family Tang's medical inheritance. As long as we find this in his place, we can also punish him. Tang Guo was of course just saying that. It was too easy for Lin Yikai. That's the only way. Yi Tang said this, but he was planning in his heart. When he reached the city, he would gather people to inquire about Lin Yikai's whereabouts. It was strange that this person was also called Lin Yikai. Was this world really so coincidental? He didn't believe it. He couldn't ask Tang Guo in front of father and mother Tang. He planned to find an opportunity to ask the other party if that Lin Yikai was the Lin Yikai from his previous life. If that was the case, then there was really an indescribable fate between the three of them. A day later, Tang Guo and the others arrived at a county town. Yi Tang helped father and mother Tang find a small courtyard for the time being. He also found a few people to help them. In fact, they were arranged to be guards. Dr. Tang, these are my people. If you need anything, just tell them. You and Madam Tang can stay in this courtyard for the time being. You can stay here or go out to practice medicine. Miss Tang is going to Enji town. I'm worried, so I'll go with her. Yi Tang added, don't worry, I'll bring her back safely. Father Tang's eyes widened. Had it all been decided? Aren't you going to ask him? All right. Go ahead. Mrs. Tang held Mr. Tang's hand and said, then I'll hand Guo over to you. You must protect her well. Mrs. Tang believed that Yi Tang wasn't a bad person. This was a very meticulous young man. If Guo was satisfied, that would be the best. This young man's attitude was so obvious. Of course, as she could tell. Moreover, he was very polite and knew when to advance and retreat. In comparison, she realized that Lin Yikai's usual behavior was completely flawed. Mrs. Tang sighed inwardly. This child was picked up from the streets. If she couldn't teach him well, she might as well not raise him at all. If she couldn't stand him, she'd rather give him some money than bring him home. After Tang Guo and Yi Tang left, Mr. Tang looked at Mrs. Tang speechlessly. You trust Yi Tang that much? Yi Tang is different, Mrs. Tang said with satisfaction. Old man, don't say you didn't notice. This young man isn't simple. If he has evil intentions, what does he want from us? Does he want our family of 3 to be poor? Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 5084. Father Tang. Can you not be so direct? At least he has medical skills. For a young man of his status, what kind of beautiful woman hasn't he seen? Isn't it easy to find a good marriage partner? But he doesn't have a single servant girl. There are basically no servant girls in the residence, only old women. His personal servants are all servants. He even said that he would only marry one wife in the future and didn't want to make things difficult for his future wife. It's hard to find someone like him. My family of 3 was lucky enough to escape death, and we even saw Lin Yikai's true colors. The heavens have given us such a good candidate. We can't miss out on him because of some prejudice. There are many ungrateful people in this world, but there are also many who know how to repay kindness. Old man, you've treated so many people. Not everyone has forgotten you, right? Have you forgotten how I was often given eggs and vegetables when I went out to buy groceries? Although it's not much, it shows that they remember our kindness. Since this young man is interested in our and knows how to be polite, advance and retreat, and be so considerate, doesn't hate him. Why don't we observe him? Father Tang had been convinced long ago. Yi Tang was a person who did everything according to his heart. How could he be biased against everyone just because of one Lin Yikai? If that was the case, he wouldn't stop to treat Yi Tang's injuries. Alright, whatever you say. I can't win against you. Father Tang returned to the room with his hands behind his back. Anyway, I can't win against you in this lifetime. I'll take out the herbs to dry and go out to take a look in a few days. It's so boring to stay in the house all day. Miss where has your family been all this time? That Lin brat has been looking for you for a long time. We even helped him look for you for a few days. Later, someone said that you might have met with an accident or bandits. That Lin brat couldn't help but close the medicine shop and bring his travel expenses to look for you. That Lin brat has been gone for a few months. We don't know where to find you. What should we do? If we knew, we would have stopped him. Maybe you would have met. When Tang Guo returned, the neighbors saw her and came up to talk about it. She didn't need to ask anything. Soon, they remembered that Tang Guo had come back alone and did not see her parents. They hurriedly asked her where they were. Tang Guo pretended to forget what happened during that period of time. She rubbed her head and said, I don't know. When I woke up, I was at the bottom of the cliff. I don't know where my parents are. I only remember that my mother and I planned to come back after visiting our relatives. I have forgotten everything that happened after that. Could it be that he really encountered bandits and accidentally fell on his head? Because Tang Guo didn't plan to let father and mother Tang return to this place, she could only lie to the villagers. Otherwise, when she met Lin Yikai, he would be on guard when he heard the news. After dealing with these enthusiastic villagers, Tang Guo couldn't go home because Lin Yikai had sold her shop and house. She realized that the villagers didn't think much of it. Lin Yikai had made sufficient preparations. He was going to sell the house as traveling expenses to find the whereabouts of her family of 3. Tang Guo couldn't go home, so she said goodbye to the villagers and said that she was going to find Lin Yikai and her parents. These enthusiastic people even asked her if she had any money and gave her some copper coins. Tang Guo remembered this favor and left Anji town. Lin Yikai sold my shop, family business, and fields for money. He also told the villagers that he was going to find our family of 3. Tang Guo returned to the carriage and told Yi Tang about this matter. I guess he went to the capital. When Princess Taiyue came to Anji town, there was something wrong with his eyes. He took my family Tang's ancestral medical skills. He obviously wants to make a name for himself. The capital is suitable. I also have a piece of news here. He did go to the capital. Yi Tang handed a letter to Tang Guo. Take a look. Lin Yikai did go to the capital. This was news many days ago. The current situation was still unknown. However, Lin Yikai had set himself up as an infatuated person. Wherever he went, he would tell people that he was going to find his master's wife, and his fiancée. Therefore, it was easy for Yi Tang to know about his news. Is this Lin Yikai, that Lin Yikai? Yi Tang asked. Chapter 5085. I think so. Yi Tang was confused. Tang Guo was not sure, but he did not intend to ask. Whether Lin Kai was the Lin Kai from her previous life was not important at all. Are we going directly to Beijing now? Yes, send a message back to my parents and tell them not to worry. Leave the rest to me. Lin Kai had already gone to Beijing. Tang Guo could predict what he would do next. Therefore, she planned to set up a trap for Lin Kai, a trap that would not allow him to escape. The medical skills passed down by the family could raise Lin Kai's status, but she also had a way to make Lin Kai fall. Whether it was the original Lin Kai or the Lin Kai who was reborn to do the mission to win her heart, they were both bad people. Guo what are you writing? I'm writing a medical book. Yi Tang was puzzled. Are you writing down your family's medical book from memory? No, I figured it out myself. Tang Guo looked up and smiled. She pointed at the medical book on the small table. This thing is not good. Some of the prescriptions in it can't be used on people. When Yi Tang heard this, he understood that the medical book written by Tang Guo was poisonous. He remembered Tang Guo's plan when she lost part of her memory. When he saw the medical book in front of him, it suddenly became clear. Lin Kai had done enough work in Anji town. Even if the family came back, they might not be able to sue him. Now that he had gone to Beijing, it would be even more impossible for the family to bring Lin Kai to justice. Tang Guo wrote this poisonous medical book to make Lin Kai think about it. When the time came, he might be doomed. This thing won't kill anyone. I'm just setting up a trap for Lin Kai. Only with this trap can he be punished. When Tang Guo said this, she found that Yi Tang did not say anything. She looked up and happened to see Yi Tang looking at her. What's wrong? Nothing. I just feel like I've been picked up from the streets. I realized that in a world without you, it was as if I had lost my soul. I was no different from a tool. When I saw you, a sentence rang out in my head. What words? I feel like I came to this world just to meet you. Yi Tang said, I don't know how many more people there will be in my next life. If God doesn't want me to lose my memory, then I really want to trouble him to send you to my side. If you pray every day and the heavens see your sincerity, it might come true. Tang Guo joked. This person was really funny. He clearly knew about this matter, but he insisted on making himself lose his memory. Now, he was worrying over nothing. He had said that he wanted to meet her in the next life. What a joke. Tang Guo continued to bury her head in writing the medical book. Some of the prescriptions in the book were not wrong. At least, there had to be some real things to make Lin Kai believe that there was no problem. She, who was familiar with the plot of this world, could predict that Lin Kai would definitely use Princess Taiyue to get close to the emperor. The emperor was over 50 years old. His body's condition was getting worse. He looked older and older with each passing year, accompanied by headaches and insomnia. When he woke up in the middle of the night, he would sit until dawn. He could not fall asleep again. In the plot, Lin Kai received the family Tang's medical inheritance. He could only make some medicine to make the emperor sleep. As for the headaches, it could only be slowed down but could not be eliminated. As far as she knew, the emperor not only wanted to cure his illness, but also wanted to live forever. In her medical book, she wrote that it could make people sleep, cure headaches, and refine the longevity pill. Chapter 5086. Among them, the prescription to make people fall asleep was real. The prescription to treat headaches was half real and half fake. It was effective, but it was accompanied by a lot of side effects. This side effect wouldn't harm the foundation, so she could deal with it. As for the prescription for the longevity pill, it was fake. After taking it, there would be a lot of side effects, but she could deal with it. She was the one who wrote the prescription, so it wasn't strange that she could deal with the side effects after taking it. If Lini Kai knew there was such a book, it was impossible that he wouldn't be tempted. Whether he was the reborn Lini Kai or not, he couldn't escape this trap. Yi Tang saw with his own eyes that Tang Guo finished writing a medical book and then made it old. The edges of the book looked tattered, like an ancient book that had just been unearthed. Even he couldn't tell if this book was a new one or not. In a month's time, Tang Guo and Yi Tang came to the capital. Then I'll secretly watch you from the side and won't disturb you, okay? Yi Tang wanted to stay by Tang Guo's side all the time, but it would easily spoil her plans. Fortunately, he had a lot of businesses in the capital and a lot of people. He could arrange some people to watch over Tang Guo at all times. They spent a lifetime together in their previous lives, so he knew her character very well. He couldn't change what she had decided. Okay, I'll go first. Find a place and stay obediently. Don't run around. Tang Guo reminded him, there are a lot of women in the capital. With your appearance, you might be fancied by a young lady. At that time, you'll have a lot of peach blossoms. I'll cover my face when I go out. Yi Tang hurriedly promised, I won't let anyone see my face. Don't worry. But you, be careful of Lini Kai. You still have an unannulled engagement with him. He'll be a dead man soon. Why bother with him? Yi Tang thought that was true. Lini Kai couldn't catch her in her previous life, and he couldn't catch her in this life either. Besides, Lini Kai was a dead man after doing such a thing. After parting with Yi Tang, Tang Guo wandered around Princess Taiyue's mansion because Lini Kai lived not far from Princess Taiyue's mansion. Princess Taiyue was very favored by the emperor. She moved to the princess mansion before she got married. She could go wherever she wanted. She had more freedom than other princesses. Ever since they received news about Lini Kai, Yi Tang's people had been keeping an eye on him. They would send new information to him every 3 to 5 days. When they were close to the capital, they would send news once a day. It could be said that Yi Tang knew Lini Kai's every move. Currently, Yi Tang was staying in the small courtyard arranged by Princess Taiyue. He was treating the scar on Princess Taiyue's neck. Originally, Princess Taiyue invited him to stay in her residence. However, Lini Kai revealed his infatuated character and said that it would be more convenient for him to stay outside. Perhaps, he would be able to meet his junior sister someday. Without Lini Kai's efforts to seduce her, Princess Taiyue really didn't think about it. It should be said that Lini Kai's infatuated character made Princess Taiyue appreciate him a little, but he was still not good enough for her. After wandering around, Tang Guo didn't plan to find Lini Kai at this time. At this time, Lini Kai had just been valued by Princess Taiyue. He hadn't entered the emperor's field of vision with her help. This was not conducive for her to send the medical book in her hand to Lini Kai. She was afraid that if she appeared in advance, Lini Kai would change his plan. After wandering around, Tang Guo planned to find a place far away from Lini Kai. It was equivalent to the slums in the capital and find a small courtyard to live in. Chapter 5087. In the following period of time, she planned to collect herbs, sell herbs, and help people in the medicine shop to make a living. When the time came, she would find Lini Kai. Tang Guo went back and told Yi Tang about this matter. Yi Tang said happily, in the capital, I also have a few medicine shops. Which one do you want to work in? It was safer to keep his wife under his nose. His heart was in a mess when he let her go out for a walk. Just choose a medicine shop in a remote location, a little further from Princess Taiyue's residence. Tang Guo said. Yi Tang was a little embarrassed, the locations are not too bad. There are 2 shops that are relatively far from Princess Taiyue's residence. But in that area, you often see the royal family and nobles. I'm afraid it's not what you want. Then I'll go to another shop. I'll just find one randomly. When Lin Kai uses Princess Taiyue to establish a connection with the Emperor, I'll appear. Why don't I ask someone to open a shop in a remote place? Just open a medicine shop that can treat people with financial difficulties for free. Seeing Yi Tang's anxious look, Tang Guo laughed. Okay, I'll listen to you. She was afraid that if she didn't listen to him, he would cry later. Sure enough, as soon as she said this, Yi Tang relaxed. The joy between his eyebrows could not be concealed. Then I'll ask someone to buy a shop. Yi Tang said to Tang Guo and turned to go out, afraid that she would change her mind. In less than half a day, the shop was bought. The old doctor was also invited. Tang Guo went to work in the shop. Behind the shop was a courtyard. Tang Guo lived there at Yi Tang's request. Behind the courtyard, there was another courtyard. Yi Tang bought it and connected it to this courtyard. He usually lived in that courtyard, and this courtyard was used as a cover. He listened to Tang Guo and didn't go out. Whenever Tang Guo went into the courtyard, he would hear the servant report and go to her room. The old doctor sat in the hall, stroking his beard and feeling the pulse. He thought that his boss was a young man after all. He met a girl he liked, so he had so much trouble. In order to please the lady, he spent a lot of money. His boss, on the other hand, was quite good. He rented a house and opened a medicine shop. This lady's hobby was also special. She liked to work in the medicine shop. The scar has indeed faded quite a bit. Princess Taiyue checked the scar on her neck in the mirror, ignoring Lin Kai who was burying his head in the mirror. Dr. Lin, how long will it take for this consort scar to disappear completely? Princess Taiyue asked expectantly. This prescription of yours is truly miraculous. Back then, Imperial Father had found countless divine doctors for me, but none of them could solve this problem. You've only been fighting for less than a month, and you already have such an effect. When this consort scar is completely healed, this consort will introduce you to Imperial Father. It's a pity that you're wandering outside with such great abilities. Lin Kai said respectfully and politely, Thank you, Princess. The princess's scar will completely disappear in 2 months. So fast. Princess Taiyu's eyebrows were filled with joy. It's only 2 months. This consort has waited for so many years and almost gave up. 2 months is just a moment. By the way, have you found the whereabouts of your master's family? Princess Taiyu knew that Lin Kai was very worried about Father Tang's family, so she asked. She had also asked someone to help her find out, but unfortunately, it was to no avail. Not yet. I don't know where they went or if they met with any mishaps. I hope not. Lin Kai's face was filled with worry. He thought that Tang Guo would come looking for him next year. Peak. Chapter 5088. He had to take advantage of the time before she arrived to raise his status. Only when he had more power could he cover up some things that he had to cover up. He didn't want to fail his mission again. He had already failed once. If he failed again, he would only have one more chance. He had to use his power and recruit people to cover up what happened before. He had to fabricate another story to make Tang Guo believe that he wasn't the one who did it and that he was framed. It was all his fault in his previous life. He actually did such a thing. He even teleported too late and didn't have time to do anything. He didn't know if it was because he failed the mission in the previous world that the difficulty of the mission in this world increased. In the later stages of the original plot of this world, Tang Guo only had hatred for him. It was impossible for her to like him. It was difficult. Then you should complete the mission well. If you complete the mission in this world, the next world will be easier. If you complete the mission, the difficulty will be reduced by half. What if I don't complete it? Lin Kai asked with a bad expression. He felt that something was wrong. He felt that the difficulty of this world wasn't as simple as increasing by half as compared to the previous world. If you fail the mission, the difficulty will increase. For example, if you failed the previous world's mission, the difficulty of this world's mission will be doubled. If you fail again in this world, the difficulty of the next world's mission will be quadrupled. If you can't complete the next world's mission, you're finished. System 978's words made Lin Yikai feel cold from his feet to his head. He gritted his teeth. No matter what, he had to complete the mission. Otherwise, he would be gone. 2 months later, Lin Yikai healed Princess Taiyu's scar. Princess Taiyu was very happy. She even specially organized a flower appreciation party to help Lin Yikai show his face at the flower appreciation party. Some noble ladies had some scars on their bodies because of various accidents. They all looked for Lin Yikai. Lin Yikai didn't refuse. Not to mention the noble ladies, even some young masters looked for him. After that, Princess Taiyu introduced Lin Yikai to the emperor. When the emperor heard that there was such a powerful genius doctor, he hurriedly invited him into the palace. His headaches and insomnia couldn't be solved, and he was looking forward to Lin Yikai's surprise. Lin Yikai was indeed more capable than the imperial physicians of the imperial hospital. He was able to alleviate the emperor's headaches and insomnia by quite a bit. Originally, the emperor wanted him to stay in the imperial palace. Later, when he heard that he was looking for his Shifu's family, as well as his fiancée, he allowed him to stay outside the palace, but he had to listen to the emperor's orders at all times. Late at night, Lin Yikai opened the family Tang medical book and found the prescriptions he used in his previous life. He decided to use these prescriptions to gain more power and gain the attention of the emperor. No matter what, he had to live here for the rest of his life. In a world of imperial power, the higher one's status was, the more comfortable his life would be. He was someone who would never let himself be wronged. I'm going to find Lin Yikai. Tangua ate her snacks. Right now, he has just gained the attention of the emperor. He hasn't taken out more prescriptions from the family Tang medical book. He has only helped the emperor relieve some of his personal problems. If he continues to wait and takes out more things, even if he makes some mistakes, the emperor won't kill him. There were some useful things in the family Tang medical book that were very useful to soldiers. Among them, there were the prescriptions for the blood-staunching powder and anesthetic powder. It wasn't that these things couldn't be taken out, but that Lin Yikai couldn't take them out. These two things weren't written on the surface of the medical book. They were discovered by Lin Yikai by accident and were hidden between the cover of the book. The Peak. Chapter 5089. In the original plot, Lin Yikai gained the respect of many soldiers with the help of these two things. Princess Taiyu also appreciated him more because of this. She didn't care about his identity and recruited him as the prince consort. She felt that he was an indomitable man who thought about the country. Who knew that Lin Yikai just plagiarized the family Tang people's things? It was really unexpected that he could find the things in the compartment. Tangua not only had to see Lin Yikai at this time, but she also had to find a way to burn the medical book in Lin Yikai's hands. Before burning it, she just had to memorize the contents inside. Then be careful. Late at night, Tangua changed into night clothes and jumped out of the house. Didn't we agree that you have to bring me along if you want to cause trouble? Don't you believe in my martial arts? Yi Tang stood in front of the window. Fortunately, he was more careful. He felt that she wanted to do something, so he came over and squatted down. Fortunately, they had lived together for a lifetime. Otherwise, he would have been sleeping soundly by now. Then let's go. Tangua didn't refuse Yi Tang. He had already changed his clothes. Yitang followed Tang Gua and didn't ask anything. After a while, the two of them arrived at the courtyard where Lin Yikai lived. There were some servants living in the courtyard at the moment. They easily arrived at Lin Yikai's room. Tang Gua took out the sleeping gas and blew a mouthful of it. Yitang stared at her without blinking. He knew that his wife was very capable and was especially good at causing trouble. After waiting for a while, Tang Gua pushed the door and went in. Yitang followed closely behind and stood at the door to keep watch. When they arrived at the room, Tang Gua found that Lin Yikai wasn't sleeping. Instead, he was reading her family Tang's medical book under the light. Now Lin Yikai was drugged and had fallen to the ground. She quickly flipped through the medical book and recited the 2 prescriptions that Lin Yikai took out from the compartment of the book cover. Then, she pushed the candle on the medical book. Looking at the half-burned medical book, she turned and left the room. Done. Yitang looked at the fire that was slowly burning inside and asked. Tang Gua nodded lightly, let's go. I have already memorized the medical book. Let's burn that thing and treat it as an accident. As soon as Tang Gua and Yitang left, 978 felt that the dangerous aura was gone and quickly came out to take a look. He was very puzzled. Why were there some strange big shots in every world? Fortunately, he was able to escape. If he was discovered by those big shots, he wouldn't be able to escape. The system knew that 978 was afraid of him, so it deliberately released its aura. Seeing that 978 had already hidden himself, it called Tang Gua into the courtyard. Calm didn't expect that the room, but that. Lin Yikai refused to wake up, so he had no choice but to use forceful methods to wake Lin Yikai up. 978, what's wrong? What did you do to me? Lin Yikai felt pain all over his body and said angrily. 978 shouted loudly. Lin Yikai finally reacted. He saw the fire in front of him. Looking at the fallen candle on the half-burned medical book, Lin Yikai hurriedly started to extinguish the fire. The servants were also alarmed and quickly rushed over. After the fire was extinguished, Lin Yikai held the remaining quarter of the medical book and felt depressed. Although he had the memories of his previous life, the amount of medicine needed in the prescription and the things to pay attention to when making it. These things had to be done step by step. He couldn't even remember all the medicine needed. Originally, he wanted to use these 2 prescriptions to gain more power. But now, his plans were ruined. You saw that I was asleep. Didn't you know to call me? Lin Yikai asked. Chapter 5090. Lin Yikai opened the medical book that was not completely burned. He wanted to see if he could find a few prescriptions that could still be used. Unfortunately, most of the medical book was burned, and there was no complete prescription left. Looking at the ashes in front of him, he could only accept his fate. Fortunately, he remembered the prescriptions for relieving the emperor's headache and insomnia. With these 2 prescriptions alone, he could also get the emperor's attention. However, it was basically impossible to get a special status. In addition, there was a house to remove scars, which could make him a lot of money. With these, he could do a lot of things. 978, what did you do just now? Why didn't you remind me earlier? Lin Yikai rubbed his head. I shouldn't have read so late at night. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. I felt the aura of a big boss, so I hid. I told you before that I'm not the only system in the spirit space. If I meet some powerful big bosses, I might be swallowed. If I'm swallowed, you're also in danger. Another big boss. Don't worry, the other party was just passing by and didn't notice me. Lin Yikai didn't care much about this. He was still in pain because a good medical book was burned just like that. If he had known, he would have made a backup copy. Then, he wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Lin Kai didn't expect to meet Tanguo the next day. The moment he saw Tanguo, he turned around and wanted to leave because there were still many things that he hadn't prepared. He was afraid that he would expose himself. However, Tanguo was already running towards him excitedly. If he turned around and left, it would be even more suspicious. 978, she should have lost her memory, right? Lin Kai asked in his heart. Why did Tanguo appear in the capital in advance? She should have lost her memory. You treated her family like that. If she didn't lose her memory, she wouldn't be running towards you excitedly now. She would be slashing at you with her sword. System 978's words made Lin Kai feel a little relieved. Also, Tanguo should have forgotten what happened that day. After thinking about it, he also showed an excited look and quickly walked towards Tanguo. Junior sister. Senior apprentice brother. Tanguo also shouted, Senior apprentice brother, I finally found you. On the way here, I heard some people discussing that a young master was looking for someone. I guessed that this person was you, so I came to Beijing. It was just that the journey was too hectic and they didn't have anything with them. They could only work for others to earn some money while they were on the road. When I came to the capital, I went to a pharmacy to settle some matters. I wanted to settle down before looking for you. Lin Kai finally understood. It turned out that this was the reason why Tanguo was able to arrive in Beijing ahead of time. He was indeed very high profile on his way to the capital. He wanted to tell everyone that he was going to look for his junior sister's family and publicize his infatuated persona. In this way, even if Tanguo regained her memory in the future, he would be able to find a way to cover it up. Junior sister, I've been looking for you everywhere. Where did you go? Where are master and mistress? Tanguo shook her head. I don't know what happened. When I woke up, I was at the bottom of the cliff. I didn't see my parents. Some people speculate that I met some bandits and lost part of my memory. It's good that we found you. Let's go look for master and mistress together. Lin Kai comforted Tanguo and led her to where he lived. He also told her about the recent events. Tanguo also made up some things to tell Lin Kai. Lin Kai saw that she was not suspicious at all and his heart was completely relaxed. Like transmigration, female supporting character, calm down please bookmark, female supporting character, calm down please bookmark. Chapter 5091. If it wasn't for the fact that it wasn't the right time, Lin Kai would have suggested that the two of them get married first. But thinking that this was an ancient society, Tanguo wouldn't agree if she couldn't find her parents' whereabouts. She might even leave a bad impression. Lin Kai suppressed his thoughts and planned to treat Tanguo better so that she would place all her attention on him. I've already searched the entire capital, but there's no news of master and mistress. Junior sister, do you still remember which cliff you woke up on? I was in a daze at the time, so I forgot. Lin Kai comforted her, it's okay, we'll slowly search. When senior brother earns more money, we can gather some people and have them help us search. Previously, when I treated Princess Taiyu, she even introduced me to the emperor. Once I gain the emperor's trust, I might be able to ask for a favor. Tanguo nodded lightly, senior brother, is it true that working by the emperor's side is like living with a tiger? It's about the same. In any case, I can't raise my head and talk like I normally do. I can't even look at him. Lin Kai changed the topic, I've already asked someone to clean up your room. In a while, we'll go out and buy some new clothes. After traveling for so long, you've already lost weight from hunger. System, host, you haven't lost weight from hunger. Could that fellow bear to let you lose weight from hunger? She was clearly growing up. The baby fat on her face would definitely slowly recede. Okay. Lin Kai took Tangua's bag and found that it was a bit heavy. He casually asked, "What's inside this bag?" "It's a box that father left behind." Tangua said, "I also don't know what's inside. I didn't have the key and was in a hurry to find you, so I couldn't open it to take a look. I heard father say before that when we returned to Enji town, he found out that you sold the shop, house, and farmland in order to find us. I remembered that father left something at home, so I took it out." Lin Kai was puzzled. What important thing was a box? He had never seen Father Tang have a box. Could it be some kind of inheritance that he was not allowed to know about? This doctor was really funny. He had to hide everything. In any case, he was his disciple, but he couldn't even take a look. He had to secretly leave everything to his biological daughter. With his actions, it was no wonder that so many inheritances had been lost. "Senior Marshal brother, since I've found you, please help me keep this box safe. Father didn't even let me open this box. I'll wait until I meet father and tell him the news. This should be very important to him. There were a few times when I went to look for him, and I saw him secretly looking at this box." Lin Kai didn't refuse. Seeing that Tangua trusted him so much, he agreed repeatedly. However, in his heart, he was thinking that since Father Tang was so concerned about the box, the things inside were definitely not simple. It might even be more precious than the medical book. Thinking of this, Lin Kai felt a little excited. If it really was another inheritance, then it would only be a matter of time before he obtained an even higher position. Tangua couldn't wait for Father Tang to come back. Why don't he open this box and see what's inside? This box wasn't big. It was only the size of a book and was only a finger thick. It could be seen that there wasn't anything inside. "Host, do you really want to open this box? If Tangua finds out, she will definitely be angry with you. At that time, it will be difficult to win her heart." Chapter 5092. She'll regain her memories after a while. "If I don't have supreme power and can't arrange a scapegoat, I won't be able to complete this mission. I have to obtain power first before I have the chance to arrange a scapegoat. With my current ability, I can't do this at all." "Alright, as long as you can complete the mission. I know how to open this lock. It's not difficult. If there's a medical book inside, I'll make a copy without touching anything and lock it back. If I don't say anything and you don't say anything, how can she know?" Lin Kai successfully tricked 978, so he began to open the lock. This kind of lock was not difficult to open. He had studied this kind of lock before, so it didn't take long for him to open it. After removing the lock, he nervously opened the wooden box. When he saw what was inside, he revealed an expression that said, "I knew it." There were 3 items in the box. A bag of gold needles and a short knife. It was shorter than a normal dagger and much thinner. At the bottom, there was an old book. The words on the cover of the book were already unclear, but it didn't stop Lin Kai from getting excited. If he wasn't wrong, this was another medical book. He trembled as he flipped through the medical book. He was very excited as he looked at the prescriptions. Among them, there were 3 prescriptions that attracted his attention the most. After careful calculation, these 3 prescriptions were what he needed right now: sleep, headache treatment, and longevity pill. Lin Kai looked at the prescription of the longevity pill and hesitated. Was there really a longevity pill? He heard that some emperors in their old age would not bear to die. In order to pursue longevity, they would raise a group of alchemists. However, these alchemists were not proper alchemists. The pills they refined were basically overloaded with heavy metals. Not only could they not achieve longevity, but they could also allow the emperor to reincarnate early. Although he didn't know whether the longevity pill was real or fake, Lin Kai still decided to copy all the contents of the medical book. There were a total of 20 prescriptions, each with their own benefits. After he finished copying, he put the items back in their original positions. Before he put them back, he wiped them with a piece of cloth to prevent his fingerprints from being left behind. Perhaps the ancients wouldn't care about this. He was just taking precautions. The small wooden box was locked again. Lin Kai hid it. He decided to try the sleeping prescription first. He would say that he had improved on the previous prescription. Oh. Is what Minister Lin said true? The emperor was surprised and somewhat delighted. Ever since Lin Kai appeared, his insomnia and headaches had lessened a lot. When he heard Lin Kai say that the prescription for sleeping pills had been improved, his interest was piqued. I wonder what improvements have been made compared to before. Now, every day before going to bed, the emperor had to take the sleeping pills prescribed by Lin Kai. She could fall asleep, but if she didn't take the medicine for a day, she would return to how she was before. Your Majesty, the improvement this time will completely cure your insomnia. Really? This time, the emperor was really surprised. Then my beloved minister, quickly prepare the medicine. Lin Kai gave the medicine that he had already prepared to the emperor's men. The emperor would definitely not use it directly. He would have to find someone to try it on. After all, he was not the person the emperor trusted the most right now. However, he believed that once the medicine was administered, the emperor would definitely trust him. It was very useful. He had already asked someone to try it out. When the emperor asked someone to test the medicine and saw that there were no problems, he began to take the medicine that Lin Kai had concocted. 10 days passed. The emperor indeed felt that his sleep was better than before. According to Lin Kai, his insomnia would be completely cured after taking the medicine for a month. A month later, the emperor stopped taking the medicine for a day. That night, as Lin Kai expected, he slept exceptionally well. The emperor was very happy and promoted Lin Kai. Chapter 5093. Lin Kai felt that it was not enough, so he suggested that he had improved the prescription for the headache. The emperor trusted him so much that he boldly used Lin Kai's prescription. Just as he said, the headache gradually got better. He didn't have frequent bouts of pain and couldn't do anything. This Minister Lin is really capable at such a young age. All the imperial physicians in the imperial hospital are not as good as a young man in his early 20s. The emperor sighed, Taiyue, thank you for recommending this person. Otherwise, no one could cure my illness. Princess Taiyue was very happy when she heard that the emperor's insomnia was cured and his headache was gradually alleviating. She didn't lead the wrong person. Thank you for your praise, father. I saw that he had some ability, so I led him here. I didn't expect him to be so capable. For such a talent to be valued by imperial father, it is his fortune. At this time, the emperor sighed. Princess Taiyue quickly asked, why did father sigh? I sigh because I'm gradually getting old and powerless. Even if I have countless ambitions in my heart, I don't have the strength to do them. When I wake up every day, I see white hair on my head. I have to admit that I'm old. Princess Taiyue didn't know how to respond to this. She could only say a few more words. The emperor had a long life and so on. You said that Minister Lin was able to remove my scars and treat my insomnia and headaches. I wonder if he has a prescription to prolong my life. Princess Taiyue didn't know how to answer, I don't know. If the emperor could live for 2 more years, she would naturally be happy. When her brother was the emperor, how could she be more comfortable than when her biological father was the emperor? In the past 2 years, she also clearly felt that the situation in the imperial court was different. Her brothers were restless. Unfortunately, she was not a man. Otherwise, she could also make a fuss about it. However, the emperor had an idea. After sending Princess Taiyue away, he summoned Lin Yikai to the palace. "I don't have such a prescription," Lin Yikai replied. He didn't know whether the longevity pill was real or not, so he didn't dare to take it out. "If your majesty is not feeling well, I can prescribe some tonic for your majesty." The emperor sighed. "Forget it. That kind of medicine is not something that ordinary people can ask for." Lin Yikai left the palace, but in his heart, he was planning to develop the longevity pill and see what kind of thing he could create. If he succeeded, he might be able to conjure one day to save his life. When the time came and the emperor asked about it, he would say that it was the result of his hard work and he just wanted to give him a surprise. After thinking it through, Lin Yikai began to do these things. Tang Gua stood aside and watched Lin Yikai quietly. Lin Yikai tried to please her every day, but she acted like she was only focused on finding Father Tang and Mother Tang. She didn't care about those things at all, which gave Lin Yikai a headache. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't have enough manpower right now, he really wanted to arrange for people to find the bodies of Tang Guo's parents so that Tang Guo would give up early so that she could marry him. However, he was afraid that if he did this, there would be a butterfly effect. If it stimulated Tang Guo and she recovered her memories prematurely, wouldn't it be over if he wasn't prepared? Tang Guo lived in Lin Yikai's courtyard. On the other side, Yi Tang had always been looking forward to buying a courtyard next door. He could only watch Tang Guo's side, not daring to do anything for fear of ruining Tang Guo's plans. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Tang Guo and Lin Yikai had already met for 3 months. Lin Yikai still hadn't produced the longevity pill. Chapter 5094. There were too many details to pay attention to. There were also many medicines needed, both precious and not. With his current wealth, he might not even be able to buy those medicines. He wasn't sure if these things would be effective. He was still in the stage of gathering the medicines. Anyway, he was now the emperor's favorite. If he didn't make any mistakes, his future would be bright. There was no need to take out the so-called longevity pill. That was simply adding fuel to the fire and asking for trouble. Dear host, Lin Yikai didn't take out the longevity pill. Your prediction was wrong. The system was a little anxious. My plan didn't go wrong. This step was also within my calculations. The system didn't understand why. Soon, what happened next made it understand what Tang Guo was planning. Just as Lin Yikai was leisurely planning to cultivate his relationship with Tang Guo, something happened to the emperor. Tang Guo thought of the trap that she had dug previously. The emperor took the medicine to treat headaches and the aftereffects appeared. During the morning court, the emperor suddenly fainted in the court, causing a group of imperial physicians to be in a panic. They couldn't find out why the emperor fainted because his pulse was calm. It didn't seem like his life was in danger. Soon, they all thought of Lin Yikai and called for Lin Yikai to enter the palace. Lin Yikai was also puzzled. The emperor's health had improved a lot recently. Why did he suddenly faint? With all kinds of doubts, he entered the palace to treat the emperor. However, this time, he couldn't diagnose the emperor's illness. Everyone in the court was anxious. The emperor had been unconscious for a day and still didn't wake up. However, the emperor's pulse was fine. Lin Yikai, you really can't diagnose father's illness. Princess Taiyu was also anxious. If the emperor didn't wake up, chaos would ensue. Lin Yikai's heart was in a mess. There was no such thing in his previous life. You said that you won't change the plot. However, you gave the emperor these medicines. Aren't you changing the plot? 978's belated retort made Lin Yikai even more upset. However, he quickly calmed down. The emperor's illness had nothing to do with him. Even if the emperor died, it would be fine for him to gain the favor of the new emperor with his ability. After understanding this point, he calmed down and began to plan in his mind. When the time came, he would do something big with that prince. Princess Taiyue was really worried about the emperor. Seeing that the Imperial Academy of Medicine and Lin Yikai couldn't do anything, she ordered to post a notice, inviting all the divine doctors in the world to enter the palace to treat the emperor. Tang Gua had expected that the filial Princess Taiyue would not give up on the emperor. Now that Lin Yikai was trapped in the palace and could not come out, she disguised herself and changed her appearance. She took down the yellow notice and entered the palace to treat the emperor. When Princess Taiyue heard that the yellow notice was taken down in less than half a day after it was posted, she hurriedly asked someone to invite Tang Gua to her mansion. "Can you really cure my father?" Tang Gua, who was disguised as a middle-aged man, said, "We still need to take a look. Without seeing His Majesty's illness, this one cannot be certain." Princess Taiyue's expression softened. It seemed that she was not someone who liked to boast. "Okay, come with me to see my father immediately." After Tang Gua entered the palace, she immediately treated the emperor's illness. "Dr. Yi, how is my father?" Princess Taiyue was the most anxious person present. "What did you find out?" Lin Yikai was also present. He glanced at the middle-aged man disguised by Tang Gua and said to System 978, "Where did this person come from? He actually appeared out of nowhere. It seems that I shouldn't have touched that medical book. It's all over now. You increased the difficulty yourself. Who can you blame?" Lin Yikai felt more and more that System 978 was a scamming system. It couldn't help and was still acting strangely. Replying to Princess, "His Majesty is poisoned." Tang Gua's words made everyone stop whispering. They all looked at her in disbelief. "Poisoned? You can get cash or coins by reading books. There's also iFOC waiting for you to draw. Follow VX's public account and you can get it." Chapter 5095. Dr. Yi, what kind of poison did Imperial Father get? Princess Taiyu came back to her senses and asked with a serious face. Someone dared to poison the emperor under their nose. No matter who this person was, they must find out. It's a kind of poison that can make people fall asleep. If you don't pay attention to it, you won't notice it. It will only make people fall asleep quietly and peacefully. Tang Gua explained. Princess Taiyu, can this poison be detoxified? Yes. Tang Gua's words made many people present breathe a sigh of relief. It was good that the poison could be detoxified. If the emperor really continued to fall asleep, the court would be in chaos. At present, there was no crown prince. Several princes would fight to the death. Tang Gua took out a bag of golden needles and began to detoxify the emperor. She pierced the golden needles into the acupuncture points on the emperor's head one by one, making everyone nervous. Lin Yikai looked at Tang Gua's skillful skills and was a little shocked. This kind of person actually came out. He was a little annoyed. He shouldn't have changed the plot at will. He didn't know who poisoned the emperor. A few hours later, the emperor woke up. Knowing that he was poisoned, he asked people to search the palace on the spot. He asked Tang Gua to check the things he often used. There's no problem with these. Tang Gua checked the things the emperor used one by one, even the emperor's bedroom. The emperor sat there with an ugly expression on his face. Who could have done it so cleanly? In broad daylight, they actually dared to poison him. If he didn't find this person, he wouldn't be able to sleep and eat in peace. Dr. Yi, you didn't find it, The emperor asked Tangua, "You have to find it carefully for me." Tangua cupped her hands and suddenly asked, "I've checked the things and meals the emperor usually comes in contact with. What kind of medicine does the emperor usually take?" With Tangua's reminder, the emperor suddenly remembered that he did take medicine. It was just that he had stopped taking medicine for several days, so he didn't think in that direction for the time being. He would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let go of one. He asked people to bring the remaining medicine for Tangua to check. "Is there a problem with this sleeping medicine?" At this time, other than Tangua, there were only the emperor, Princess Taiyue, and his close servants in the room. Even Lin Kai was chased out by him. Seeing that Tangua was checking the prescription for sleeping pills, the emperor suddenly asked. He trusted Lin Kai too much. Although Lin Kai's medical skills were good, he was an outsider after all. Who knew if he had any evil intentions? If that was the case, he would definitely not let Lin Kai off. "This is a good medicine that can make people sleep." "It's not poisonous," Tangua replied. The emperor's expression softened. That was good. Lin Kai must not fail to live up to his expectations. At this time, Tangua checked the prescription for headache again. She frowned slightly, and the emperor's heart sank. "Is there a problem with this medicine?" the emperor asked. Princess Taiyue became nervous. Her eyes didn't move away from Tangua. "Your Majesty, this pack of medicine is supposed to be a good prescription for headaches. Unfortunately, there is a medicine added in it that will make people slowly fall asleep after taking it. In the end, they will fall asleep unknowingly and never wake up again." The emperor's face changed greatly. "If this medicine is removed, will the prescription still be useful?" "It's useful. This medicine is superfluous. I don't know who made this medicine. The other party deliberately added this medicine. It's obvious that they have evil intentions. This person should have excellent medical skills. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to use medicine so boldly." Chapter 5096. So, this person must have done it on purpose. The emperor's voice sounded very calm, but Princess Taiyue, who was beside him, knew that this was the storm before the emperor's anger. Yes, the other party was able to make this prescription, so he must have known that adding this medicine would have such consequences. "I understand. Dr. Yi, go and receive your reward." Lin Kai was still waiting outside, but he didn't expect that instead of the emperor's summons, a wave of guards would come and arrest him on the spot. They had received the emperor's order to throw him into prison. The reason was that he had poisoned the emperor. Tangua just walked out and saw Lin Kai being dragged away while shouting that he was wronged. Lin Kai wanted to use the emperor's power to rise up and find a scapegoat to deceive her. Then she would personally cut off this path. Seeing Lin Kai struggling crazily and shouting that he was wronged, Tangua happily received the emperor's reward and left the palace. Is this what they mean by accompanying the emperor is like accompanying a tiger? Lin Kai, who was in prison, fiercely hammered the wall. It must be that Yi guy. He must have said something to the emperor. I already said that the difficulty of the characters in this world would increase, but you still fooled around. Let's see how you're going to get out now. The emperor said that you secretly harmed him, which means that Yi guy has evidence. You have to find a way to protect your innocence. Lin Kai, if there's really a problem with the medicine, can I explain it clearly? Why don't you check it for me? Let me just give it to the emperor. Now that there's a problem, I'm not the only one who's unlucky. You're the only one who's unlucky. I don't have any energy now. If you die, I'll have to rebind to the host. I'm so stupid. Why did I choose such a stupid host like you? I used to think that you were a scumbag in every life, but no matter what, your luck is still good. Now I understand. You're a scammer. Scammer your woman and scammer the system. 978 was a little regretful. He shouldn't have been bound to such an unreliable system. He just wanted to earn some energy to level up, but he ended up meeting such a bad host. Lin Kai felt a chill run down his spine. I suspect that you're here to prank me. You just want to use me to gain Tanggua's sincerity and gain energy. You don't want to help me at all. You're just lying to me. I do want to rely on you to obtain energy, but I didn't ask you to do bad things. I even spent energy to inject your feelings for Tanggua into you so that you can complete missions when you like her, make it up to her, and win her heart. But you're unreliable, and you're blaming me, the system, for being unreliable. It's obvious that you're useless. You're full of evil tricks. Even if God wants you to die, the system can't save you. It's true that your soul will scatter. Chapter 5097. The Emperor threw the medical book to the Imperial Doctor of the Imperial Hospital to check. The prescription on it looked good. He suddenly remembered Dr. Yi, who had treated him before and planned to summon him to the palace. Princess Taiyu said, not long after Dr. Yi left the palace that day, I sent someone to find him. I wanted to ask where he lived. I was afraid that father would need it later. However, the people who went couldn't find Dr. Yi. He most likely left the capital. In my opinion, this Dr. Yi is a real expert. He just happened to meet the yellow notice. He didn't want to stay in the secular world. The Emperor agreed. In comparison, Lin Kai did have some ulterior motives. First, he attracted the attention of Princess Taiyu. Then, Princess Taiyu brought him to the palace to see him. He solved two problems for him. Have the people who were sent to investigate Lin Kai come back? I'm afraid it will take some time. Princess Taiyu said. The Emperor nodded. Then let's wait a little longer. I want to see what Lin Kai is up to. Father, I know that Lin Kai is looking for his master's family. He has found his little junior sister some time ago. Oh. Does his little junior sister know about this matter? This son has asked and sent people to investigate. This woman has no idea about what happened to Lin Kai in the palace. According to her, Lin Kai's medical skills were not as good as hers. Later, after Lin Kai came to the capital, his medical skills improved greatly and he became father's favorite. Princess Taiyu said, Lin Kai came to the capital because Dr. Tang's family suddenly disappeared. He sold the house and land under Dr. Tang's name to get enough money. According to Miss Tang, she woke up under the cliff later. She didn't remember what happened before. She should have lost that part of her memory. In fact, Princess Taiyu already had her own doubts. It was really coincidental when these things were connected together. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. This matter was very strange. Why did Lin Kai, as a disciple, sell the land and house not long after the family of three disappeared and find someone to come to the capital? He also treated Princess Taiyu's scar and came to him. Since the other party had already obtained the status he deserved, why did he still want to harm him? Could it be that this person had been bribed by one of his sons and planned to let him sleep in this way? Once the Emperor's imagination, there was no way to stop it. Ask the people from the Imperial Hospital to help the woman surnamed Tang to see if she can recover her memory. Princess Taiyu, yes. Tanggua was temporarily taken to the princess's residence. On this day, all the doctors of the Imperial Hospital came. It was said that they wanted to examine her head and see if they could help her recover her memory. Tanggua was waiting for this. She happily agreed to their treatment. She was very good at making some problems happen to her body and traveling through so many worlds. In the end, the imperial physicians came up with two conclusions. First, there was still a blood clot in her brain that had not yet dissolved. Second, it was possible that some memories were too painful and she did not want to recall them. Therefore, she said that she woke up under the cliff. When she woke up, the back of her head was very painful. There was a bulge there that dissipated after many days. Everyone speculated that she should have been hit by a hard object from behind. Princess Taiyu was a little hesitant about this. The head is not like other places. If it was really hit and something happened, wouldn't it? Chapter 5098. I want to know what the truth is. Ever since I met Senior Marshal Brother, I have a feeling that it's not real. To put it bluntly, my talent in medicine isn't much better than Senior Marshal Brother's. When I came to the capital, I heard that he was put in an important position by the Emperor. In fact, it's hard to believe. Well, I'll ask someone to guess and reconstruct the scene that you might have experienced before. With the help of Princess Taiyu, they actually managed to reconstruct the scene at that time. This was because Princess Taiyu suspected that the disappearance of the family Tang might have something to do with Lin Yikai. It was very possible that Lin Yikai attacked the three of them and threw them off the cliff. After all, Tang Guo said that she woke up at the bottom of the cliff. After Tang Guo was hit by a stick, she recalled all her memories. Princess Taiyu looked at her red eyes and sighed softly. Did you remember? She didn't expect that she also misjudged. It was true that one could know a person's face but not his heart. Tang Guo recounted what happened that night. Under such circumstances, no one would doubt her. No one would question why she didn't die after falling off the cliff. Because Lin Yikai had harmed the Emperor. What wouldn't he do? As for Tang Guo not dying, of course, it was a miracle. God didn't want to let bad people get away with it. When the truth was revealed, Princess Taiyu reported this matter to the Emperor. As expected, the Emperor was extremely angry. When Lin Yikai was interrogated, he was completely dumbfounded. In particular, Tang Guo's criticism of him made him say that he was done for. The people who were arranged to go to Anji town to check the situation had also returned. Lin Yikai's behavior was suspicious. It was very likely that he killed the family Tang for the medical book. Faced with this kind of correction, Lin Yikai's mind was already in a mess. He couldn't defend himself at all. Looking at his flustered appearance, how could the people present not understand what was going on? The Emperor did not think about which prince Lin Yikai was helping because he had some misgivings. If the prince who was causing trouble asked Lin Yikai to identify the other prince, it would cause more trouble. It would be better to deal with Lin Yikai and give him a warning. No matter what, Lin Yikai was his son. He was also old and needed to nurture a successor. He could not sit on the dragon throne forever. When Lin Yikai heard that he was sentenced to be beheaded, his heart went cold and he panicked. In a moment of desperation, he suddenly remembered the prescription for the longevity pill that he had memorized. A glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. Fortunately, he had torn down the 3 important prescriptions and memorized them. If the Emperor didn't obtain them, he really wouldn't have a chance to turn the tables. There shouldn't be many emperors who didn't want to live forever, right? He had failed the mission, but he didn't want to die. He didn't know if he could succeed the next time, so he wanted to live as long as he could. If the Emperor knew that he could refine the longevity pill, he would definitely think of a way to protect him. Tang Guo watched as Lin Yikai was pulled away in despair. He was originally making a fuss, but he suddenly stopped. His eyes were deep in thought, so she knew what he was thinking. The corner of her lips slightly curved. Was he going to die like this? No, that would be letting him off too easily. Although she couldn't make Lin Yikai experience the pain of the original owner, she still had a way to make Lin Kai live a life worse than death. Lin Kai was in prison, shouting that he wanted to see the emperor. He said that there was an important matter, and he also mentioned the missing pages in the medical book. When the emperor heard about it, he really did come to see Lin Kai. On the day that Lin Kai was to be beheaded, a death row prisoner replaced him. He was locked up in another place by the emperor to refine the longevity pill. Chapter 5099. Lin Kai knew that the immortality pill was his only hope in this life. He only prayed that the medical book didn't lie to him and could refine the immortality pill. The emperor was happy. No matter what he did, he could still live a good life. As for seducing Tanguo, it was basically impossible. He had already given up on that idea. Tanguo planned to leave the capital. It was all thanks to Princess Taiyu's help that things went so smoothly. She said goodbye to Princess Taiyu and said that she was going to find her parents. Before she left, she gave Princess Taiyu 2 beauty houses and the prescription to remove scars. Princess Taiyu was really shocked. This was already a secret ancestral prescription. Even though Lin Kai only took out medicine and didn't have any prescriptions, she didn't ask about it. Princess, you helped me a lot before. I don't have anything to repay you, so I'll give you a prescription that you can use. This time, Princess Taiyu didn't refuse. She watched Tanguo leave. After leaving the capital, Tanguo met Yi Tang and sat in his soft carriage. Lin Kai didn't die. The emperor kept him. Yi Tang said. He didn't believe that Tanguo didn't know. He was stunned by such a sophisticated plan. Yes, I did it on purpose. Tanguo was sleepy in the carriage. Do you believe that I have an experience from my previous life in my mind? I can do whatever you say. Is that so? Then when we go back, I'll take over your family property and sell you. Yi Tang, are you willing to? So you have to be obedient. If you are obedient, you won't sell me. When did I not listen to you? Yi Tang massaged Tanguo's head. When we go back, I can ask your parents for your hand in marriage, right? Go, I agree. You just need to deal with my parents. By the way, what do you mean by your previous life? In my previous life, I was very miserable. Tanguo slowly told Yi Tang everything that had happened to the original owner of the body. Yi Tang finally understood why Tanguo didn't directly kill Lin Kai, but instead set up a trap. We can't let that brothel go. Yi Tang said, why don't we settle the matter of that brothel before going back? That's exactly what I was thinking. Those girls who helped me before are all pitiful people. Why don't we redeem them and bring them back together? I happen to have some ideas. I still have a long life ahead of me. I can't do nothing and let them follow me. Okay. Yi Tang smiled and said, I won't go. It's inconvenient for a girl. He was mainly afraid of getting involved with other girls and making her unhappy. Later on, Yi Tang realized that he was thinking too much. That group of girls didn't even look at him. They pestered Tanguo all day long to learn this and that, sacrificing a lot of the time they spent together. He couldn't complain. At that time, he thought that if Tanguo was a man, that group of girls would cry and give themselves to her, even if they had to be slaves. Many years later, Tanguo's beauty salon in ancient times became popular throughout the country. She even opened 2 in the capital. Princess Taiyu was a frequent customer. That's good. If the emperor ate it, she would have to pretend to be Dr. Yi to interpret it. Fortunately, the result was similar to what she expected. The emperor was afraid of death and wouldn't test the medicine himself. Lin Kai, who was locked in the alchemy room, was living a life worse than death. He communicated with 978 in his heart. You always tell me, "Are you trying to trick me?" Lin Kai laughed. Profit. 978 was completely desperate. The host was too much of a scum. It really couldn't bring her along. Chapter 5100. You're a demon. At this moment, Tang Guo was walking down the mountain with a sword on her back. She was the only disciple of a demon hunter in this life. She grew up with her master in the deep mountains and forests. She was as pure as a piece of white paper and didn't understand the ways of the world. She came down the mountain for no other reason than the marriage that her master had arranged with someone. Her master had already passed away. She needed to fulfill her master's last wish and go to the Lin family to find her fiancé. According to her master, the Lin family helped him once. He did a divination for the Lin family and found out that the descendants of the Lin family would face a calamity. If something went wrong, the calamity would end the Lin family's line. After some discussion, she was engaged to the Lin family's young master. When she came of age, the two of them would get married. Her master said that as long as she married Lin family's young master, the calamity would be over. When she came over, Tang Guo had already thought of a plan. Marrying the Lin family's young master was impossible. Not to mention other things, just the fact that this Lin family's young master was called Lin Kai made her feel that they were fated. Her master's intention was to save Lin Kai's life. It could be considered as repaying the favor from back then. So, she only needed to keep Lin Kai alive. It didn't matter whether they got married or not. However, this was just what she thought. If Lin Kai was reborn, there would be some trouble. Thinking about how unlucky Lin Kai was in the previous world, she looked forward to what Lin Kai would go through in this world. However, she didn't expect to meet a small demon halfway and stop her. Speaking of which, she recognized this small demon. It was the female demon that Lin Kai was infatuated with in the original plot. This female demon was a little white rabbit that Lin Kai met when he went on an adventure in the mountains. At that time, Lin Kai was entangled by a huge python and almost died. Fortunately, this little white rabbit that had cultivated into a demon appeared. She fought with her life and finally saved Lin Kai. Although that huge python did not transform, its strength was not low. Little White Rabbit's demon core was shaken to the point of cracking. Lin Kai brought Little White Rabbit home and found many doctors to treat her. Unfortunately, it was useless. Later, Lin Kai used his identity as the CEO of the Lin Group to find those talented people. Unfortunately, not many people could solve the problem of the Little White Rabbit. Later on, he didn't know where he heard that the blood from the hearts of demon hunters could help the Little White Rabbit recover from its injuries. Just at this time, he heard his parents say that the fiancé of the monster hunter that he had yet to meet was going to come down the mountain and marry him, returning the favor from back then. The Lin family's parents were very satisfied with the original host. They had a good relationship with the original host's master. They also saw that the original owner was beautiful and well-behaved. She was different from the little girls they usually saw. Of course, the most important thing was that if this young lady married their son would be safe and sound. When the original owner came to the villa, he knew that there was a goblin hiding in Lin Kai's room. She was a monster hunter, but she wasn't a monster hunter that caught all kinds of demons. Her master's faction was rejected by other monster hunters because they never caught demons that hadn't done any evil deeds. Therefore, even if she knew that there was a demon hiding in Lin Kai's room, she didn't have any thoughts of killing him. She only reminded Lin Kai when there was no one around that he was just an ordinary person and wasn't suitable to be together with a goblin. In fact, she didn't have any feelings for Lin Kai. Chapter 5101. If Lin Kai had someone he liked, she would have simply called off the engagement. But Lin Kai was after the original owner's heartblood, so he never thought of calling off the engagement. As for the original owner's reminder, Lin Kai thought that she was jealous and couldn't tolerate a monster. If there was anything wrong with the little white rabbit, Lin Kai would blame it on the original owner. The little white rabbit's temperament wasn't bad. She explained it several times, but Lin Kai didn't listen. He always felt that she was being forced. As far as he knew, how could a monster hunter possibly tolerate a monster spirit? Later, Lin Kai finally proposed that if the original owner wanted to return the favor, she should give her heart blood to save the little white rabbit. The original owner was here to repay the favor. Since Lin Kai proposed this, she didn't feel anything. Giving her heart blood would make her weak for a long time, but it was a good way to repay this favor. After the original owner gave her heart blood, the little white rabbit's injuries gradually improved. At this time, the original owner proposed to call off the engagement with Lin Kai. Lin Kai didn't believe it. He always felt that the original owner was playing some tricks. When the original owner saw that Lin Kai didn't respond, she went to find the Lin couple. When the couple heard that the original owner wanted to call off the engagement, they were frightened. This was their son's life-saving charm. How could they let the original owner leave? Lin Kai didn't think that his parents would stop him. His first thought was that the original owner had used some kind of method. He fiercely said in front of the original owner that no matter what tricks she played, he wouldn't be with her. He wanted her to give up. Later, the Lin couple found out that Lin Kai was hiding a woman. Especially when they found out that this woman was a monster, they were frightened. They couldn't accept a monster living in their home and marrying their son. They originally wanted the original owner to personally get rid of this monster. The original owner didn't agree. That monster's nature wasn't bad. She didn't kill anyone. If she killed her, it would go against her master's teachings. Mr. and Mrs. Lin thought that she was afraid that Lin Kai would hate her for doing this. Thus, they secretly went to look for a demon catcher and set up an ambush for the little white rabbit outside. In any case, Lin Kai had some halo protecting little white rabbit. Although little white rabbit was injured again, she didn't die. Lin Kai thought that the original owner and the Lin couple had joined hands to harm the little white rabbit, and made the original owner offer his heart's blood. Some of it was because Lin Kai had gone too far. Even little white rabbit could not stand it anymore. She felt that she had entered the crowd and caused trouble for them, so she decided to leave. Lin Kai searched all over the world. Not only that, he also wanted the original owner to go with him. The original owner was afraid that Lin Kai was really dead. After all, his master's last words were to help Lin Kai survive this calamity. The promise of cultivators was supervised by the heavenly Tao. If she couldn't protect the bloodline of the Lin family, she wouldn't have a good ending many years later. She could only follow him. The little white rabbit was indeed in danger. It was the python's family that had taken revenge. At that time, the original owner was sure that this was Lin Kai's calamity. She was originally very weak. When she fought with the python's family, she almost lost her life. Fortunately, she managed to save little white rabbit in the end. However, little white rabbit's injuries were very serious. No matter how much blood she gave, she couldn't be saved. In the end, she died. Lin Kai not only didn't feel grateful, he even felt that the original owner was stalling for time. He hated her to the extreme. While she was healing her injuries, he killed her with a single slash. Tangua came back to her senses in an instant. She looked at little white rabbit in front of her with confusion. Shouldn't this monster be in Lin Kai's room right now? Peek. Chapter 5102. You don't know that I'm a monster hunter. Bai Yuming gently nodded her head. I know that you're a monster hunter. She sized up Tanguo from head to toe, and thought to herself that this monster hunter was still as simple and old-fashioned as she remembered. If there were monster hunters like her in the world, perhaps the monster world would be a lot more harmonious. They wouldn't be like those monster hunters who killed monsters on sight without distinguishing right from wrong. Since you know that I'm a monster hunter, why don't you hurry up and leave? Otherwise, I'll catch you in a while. Tanguo copied the tone of the original by Yumming, trying to scare the little monster. Bai Yumming almost laughed out loud, but she tried her best to hold back her laughter. This monster hunter was really quite cute. She had been reborn. She had been reborn twice. Including this life, she had a total of 3 lives. In her first life, she was that little monster who didn't understand anything when she went down the mountain for the first time. She was the one who risked her life to save the person who was caught by the python. She didn't even hesitate to lose half of her life. However, humans and monsters were different, and she also knew the gap between them. Therefore, she didn't want to see that simple-minded monster hunter get bullied by Lin Kai. She tried to explain, and tried her best, but Lin Kai had a preconceived notion that monster hunters were bad people. She told Lin Kai more than once that this monster hunter Tanguo was the kindest monster hunter she had ever seen. However, Lin Kai didn't believe her, and thought that the opposite party wanted to harm her. In the end, she wanted to leave. However, the family of the python took revenge on her, and she couldn't keep her life. Seeing Lin Kai grieving for her, she was really moved. However, she didn't expect that Lin Kai would take his anger out on Tanguo and kill her. In her second life, she was alive again. At the beginning, she worked hard to cultivate, hoping that she could easily subdue the python when she met Lin Kai again. That way, she wouldn't get hurt, and Lin Kai wouldn't force Tanguo to give her the heart's blood. She felt that this monster hunter Tanguo was a simple-minded monster hunter. Since he wanted her heart's blood, she really gave it to him. However, in her second life, she did not meet Lin Kai at the original place. She went to find Lin Kai, but found that he was very cold to her. What made her even more puzzled was that Lin Kai treated Tanguo very well. His cautious manner reminded her of how Lin Kai had treated her in the past. One day, Lin Kai's attitude towards her changed again. However, she did not know that this was a trap that Lin Kai had set for her. He found a lot of monster hunters and locked her inside that formation. She quickly dodged the attacks of the monster hunters while inside. He couldn't help but look at Lin Kai. He really wanted to ask why things had turned out this way. She didn't expect Lin Kai to look at her so calmly. In the end, when she was dying, she couldn't help but tell him about their past lives. At that time, Lin Kai only said one sentence to her. "You're a monster in the end. I came back to make it up to her. You're an unknown factor. Therefore, you can only die." These words were heartless and infatuated. He was heartless to her and infatuated with Tanguo. It was just like how Lin Kai treated her in her first life. He was forever infatuated with her and forever heartless to Tanguo. She died. She died in Lin Kai's hands. She didn't know what happened after that. She just didn't expect that she would be reborn again and return to the beginning. She was not as excited as she was last time. This time, she was very calm. She didn't choose to go to the place where Lin Kai would appear. In her opinion, perhaps Lin Kai already knew what would happen and wouldn't go there just like in her previous life. Chapter 5103. Since she had already come out, she didn't want to go back for the time being. But then, she remembered that there was still this simple-minded monster hunter. Although Lin Kai had acted very infatuated in her 2 lives, she already understood that this person wasn't infatuated at all. He was just a selfish scum. She didn't know that this simple-minded monster hunter liked Lini Kai. She just didn't have much social experience. Most likely, she was being led by the nose by Lini Kai and her master. Therefore, she came here to teach this simple-minded monster hunter some social experience, lest he be deceived by Lini Kai. Grand Master. Bai Yumming suddenly showed a pitiful expression. Grand Master, I'm a good monster. I won't hurt people. Tang Guo almost fell down. What's wrong with this monster? Why did her style suddenly change? If you had a life on your hands, I wouldn't have talked to you properly. Hurry up and leave. Go wherever you need to go. There are all kinds of monster hunters out there. If you get caught and skinned, it will be too late for you to regret it. Bai Yumming thought that this monster hunter was really a simple-minded monster. He actually told a monster like her to pay attention to her safety. He was simply a clear stream in the world of monster hunters. She couldn't let Lini Kai ruin him. Grand Master, I'm seriously injured and lost my way. I can't find my way back. Bai Yumming took 2 steps towards Tang Guo. How about you take me in? Tang Guo had already guessed that there was something wrong with Bai Yumming. However, the other party's aura was very kind. Most likely, she didn't want to play any tricks. Perhaps there was only one possibility. She had been reborn. However, she and Lini Kai were so affectionate. After being reborn, she should have gone to look for Lini Kai. Why did she come here? Since the other party had been reborn and took the initiative to seek refuge with her, she naturally wouldn't refuse. She also wanted to see what the other party wanted to do. Grand Master, if you drive me away, I will either be skinned and eaten by monster hunters or killed by other monsters to swallow my monster core. Tang Guo could see that Bai Yumming wasn't injured at all. However, she didn't intend to expose the other party. Alright, I'll allow you to follow me. Once you've recovered, you can leave at any time. However, there is a condition for you to follow me. Right now, I want to go to a place where humans live. I heard that there are a lot of rules there. You are not allowed to cause trouble, and you are not allowed to use your Yao Qi. Can you do that? I can. Master, don't worry. I'm more familiar with the places where humans live. Where do you want to go? I can lead the way for you. Bai Yumming's heart relaxed. She wanted to see what tricks Lini Kai had up his sleeves. This time, she was on the same side as the monster catcher.